All right, so basically for those of you that have been with us before, every 2 weeks on Friday we do a basic fundamentals introduction to hip hop and chosen knowledge of self to try to help not only to educate about the history and the culture, but the virtues and the way that it can benefit us and our people and the youth and the next generation. And one of the things that we've always focused on at Chosen is bridging the gap between the elder generation and the younger generation, and making sure that we can all sort of speak eye to eye, understand each other, and one of the things we teach on is levels of understanding. So having these kind of discussions with each other allows us to be able to figure out how to best reach the people that we're trying to reach. So like I say, especially when it comes to marketing and promotion, we have to make sure that we're saying the things that are actually going to gain the interest of the people that we want, and not actually pushing them away with the same statement. So with that being said, one of the things that we do with the fundamentals is go through the basics in the introduction, but we were blessed and fortunate enough to have a partnership with a new member of the Chosen family, Sir Malik One, who was one of the authors or co-authors of the Declaration of Peace, and did a lot of the research and development for what is now known as the 9 elements of the hip hop culture, as well as being an author in his own right on several as health related articles, information books in the HIV field, but also now with the new book Peace in Time of War, which is basically a socio-political guide and handbook to awareness of how hip hop affects people and places in different countries and cities around the world, and vice versa. Not only how hip hop is affected by society, but how hip hop affects society. It's a great job, and it was actually very relevant today. For those that don't know, Tasha Iglesias is doing that 5-day conference, which there's a lot of great information. In some cases, it's overwhelming. In some cases, it's like, damn, it wasn't enough. We want more. But they showed a documentary, a preview, a first view of a documentary about hip hop in the communities on the other side of the world, France, Algeria, Senegal, all of that, and interviewing people like us in the community, talking about how they use it to teach and educate and change social issues and dynamics. And it was very relevant to the topics that Sir Malik is speaking about in the book today. So real quick, since we have some new faces on here, I would like to get a chance to introduce everybody, especially because I've been having a feeling I've been confusing these two different brothers that have been following online. And now I see today, I think I was right. There's a brother by the name of Sai Uno, and there's a brother by the name of Cypher One, which I thought was the same person with different profiles, but now I see two different accounts. Go ahead and introduce yourself, brother.
Yeah, peace. My name's Cypher One. So sorry, let me. My name's Cypher
Both you?
One.
Is that the same account?
I got 2 accounts. It's just that the microphone isn't working on the other one.
Okay.
Good
Just
night,
wanted to make
Cypher
sure.
One.
Cypher One and Sai Uno is the same person.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. And where are you calling from? Where are you joining from today?
I'm calling you from Costa Rica, San Jose, Costa Rica. Thank you guys for having me here. Peace.
It's a pleasure. My pleasure. Y, ¿cómo se dice? Tonatiu. ¿Cómo se dice eso? Tonatiu. ¿Cómo se?
Good night to all.
All right.
Estamos escuchándolos.
¿Puede entender inglés o solamente español?
Sí, un porcentaje, pero ahí ya si no buscaré que me traduzca Cypher One cuando me toque opinar, por favor.
Eso que yo voy a decir, verdad, perfecto. All right, so Cypher, just in case I need you to translate for me, you got my back, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. And then of course we got brother Luke. How you doing? Glad to see you made it this week.
All good. Peace, King. Peace, Amazulu. It's good to see y'all and be able to connect here. What's up?
Definitely. And then Reyes, Reyes is one of those people that I always speak about that's actually an educator in the schools, teaching hip hop to the youth, connecting with them on a hip hop level, and educating them and elevating them and using it to pass on those virtues and learning skills and comprehension skills and all these kind of developmental life skills that are necessary that in some cases might not be accessible to them without hip hop. So, Brother Reyes, thank you for joining us. Pleasure.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's my pleasure and honor.
Right. And then we got the sister. Did we just lose her? She was there right there in the corner. She disappeared right when I was about to call her.
Sister Uruguay.
All right, so we'll get to her when we come on. But of course, we got Brother Malik One, so take a moment to introduce yourself. I do want to just get them through the introduction and actually start reviewing these principles. But of course, you are the man with the first-hand experience, so I'm honored to have you here. Thank you. Anything you want to say before we get started?
No, let's get right into this.
All right. All right. So for those that don't know, this is representing ChosenZulu.com, which basically our company we started about 15 years ago. Chosen Networks decided to reintroduce the hip hop education program as ChosenZulu.com. ChosenZulu.com es una programa que estoy haciendo en el internet para enseñar toda la información que lo hiciste por años en el Bronx, en Nueva York, en New Jersey, en América, pero para ponerlo para toda la gente del mundo, para saberlo. Y perdóname, mi español no es perfecto, pero yo voy a tratar a traducir cuando yo puedo. And so ChosenZulu.com is a program that we're running now. You don't have to be a member of any organization or any chapter in order to participate with these programs. What we do every 2 weeks on Friday is just give you a basic introduction to the fundamentals and virtues and elements and the principles. And then with that, the $9.99 monthly program is a participation program, just like if you join the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts or anything like that online, so you don't feel like you're joining any organization that you don't want to. You're participating in a program that teaches you hip hop knowledge and knowledge of self and how you can apply it to your life. So briefly, we teach that hip hop, elements of hip hop existed way before they came together in 73, but it was around 1973 that we're taught they all came together and started what later became known as the culture of hip hop. The fundamentals that we teach are the different aspects of hip hop, the elements of hip hop, the virtues of hip hop, which is an ever-growing list, the pioneers of hip hop, the eras of hip hop, and now the principles of the Declaration of Peace, which is what we're going to discuss today. So many of you have been through a lot of this with us before. So briefly, the 4 aspects of hip hop we teach is hip hop music, is where it all started with the 5 elements, including beatboxing. And then hip hop culture began with knowledge. Knowledge was the first element of the culture. So the music started, and then the knowledge brings the culture. And then when we learned how to make money, we got the business. And for people like us, it's a way of life, which is the 4th aspect of hip hop, and which is why we are here today, because it's not just a business and it's not just the music, but because it's a way of life. So these are several images that we put together to represent teaching the different elements so that people are aware of how they spread across the world. And it's now an international culture of hip hop with the color yellow. This is how it is everywhere. Todo el mundo ahora hip hop existe. This is a reminder that hip hop is a culture of peace. Hip hop and violence never existed in the same place together. As soon as the gun came out and the knife came out, somebody said fight, the DJ packed up his shit, got in the car and bounced. That was it, party's over. So this is a simple way that we explain, we remind that it's a culture of peace. You can't be hip hop and violent at the same time. Anybody who is or brings harm to their people is not practicing the culture of hip hop, no matter who they are. This is a list of the virtues, peace being the first of the virtues. This is how we sort of started breaking it down and building, but the virtues go into even professionalism with marketing and promoting and identifying your unique skills and your aspects. These are all virtues that we had to develop on our own from the streets to learn how to market our mixtapes, to learn how to get booked in programs and events, to learn how to get our music on the radio and who to talk to. We had to learn and develop these kind of virtues. The more of these virtues you can practice together, the more likely you are to being successful in life. And again, these are things that we go into detail with the weekly program. And that sort of leads us to, before we get to that, a statement from Assata Shakur. Hip hop can be a very powerful weapon to help expand young people's political and social consciousness. But just as with any weapon, if you don't know how to use it, if you don't know where to point it or what you're using it for, you can end up shooting yourself in the foot or killing your sisters and brothers. And that's both literal and figurative, right? So not only do they end up killing each other with guns in the streets, but by listening to this garbage music, this low-level thinking music, we're literally killing ourselves and stunting our people's growth and our people's growth. With that, while I have the brother on the line, Sir Malik One is the author of the book Peace in Time of War. It's available on Amazon. I definitely advise you to go get it. This is the original image that they had put together for the Declaration of Peace. I understand that some had concerns because of the images of the older people on it. However, to clarify at least 2 points, One, those older images were placed on there because most, if not all of those people were involved with the signing and putting forward this declaration in front of the UN and getting it approved with their backing, but also because at the time we felt it was, not only we, but they felt it was important for us, the generation that was coming up at the time and the next generation, to actually be able to recognize some of these pioneers when we see them. Because it's a shame when you walk by Kumo D on the street and you don't even recognize him. We would want our kids and our grandkids to recognize these people. So that's why they did it. But there are different versions and images of the declaration, including, some that we're putting together on our own details. So without further ado, while we have Sir Malik on the line, feel free to tell us a little bit about it. And if possible, we can start looking at these declarations before, the principles rather, before you got to get out here.
All right. How's everybody doing?
All right.
All right. So, just first and foremost, just wanted to take a breath, right? With everybody. Take a breath. You could have been anywhere right now, but you chose to be with us. You chose to take the time out of your day and make this call and be a part of this gathering, to be a part of this discussion. And so my goal is to make it as fruitful as possible. We have no time to squander, right? We have no time for folly and things that only further distract us from our true goals and our true victory. So let's just take a moment, gather your thoughts and know that we are grateful and thankful for your undivided attention as we discuss these issues today. So a little bit about me. And that's always important so that people can understand from which the position and the point of view that I actually hold, that I stand for. And so years ago, back in the 90s, shortly after the murder of Tupac, for those who were of age back then, remember, it was a tumultuous time. And it had been building and building and then growing and growing. Years, we had the LA riots, of course, in the 90s, right? We had another war that the country was involved in that took many people who are in our neighborhoods and who are a part of our families to these situations. But here in the country, it was constantly building, and you often heard about it in the music. And so as things began to culminate, the people from within hip hop began to really come closer together, began to have conversations that we didn't have previously. I mean, the conversations may happen in groups, but very few times it circulate through all of the groups, all of the communities from New York City all the way up and down the East Coast, right? Stretching towards the Midwest, from Chicago to Texas, Houston, St. Louis, Louisiana, all the way west, right? Colorado, Wisconsin, just everywhere, Arizona, up and down California to the Northwest, Seattle, Washington, all across this country. Hip hop citizens started to have conversations with one another. And what came out of those conversations was culminated and centralized by a group called the Temple of Hip Hop. And for those on this phone call, or just for public record, even if you know or don't know, the Temple of Hip Hop is a full service preservation society. They use hip hop as a strategy towards better health, love, awareness, and wealth. Okay, they think of hip hop as a strategy. But before this, they were involved in a lot of the research that had been developing from a lot of these conversations and the things that was going on behind the scenes after the murders of more hip hop prominent people. And so that organization was founded by KRS-One, where his goal was really to learn and advance from the meetings that he and many of the other pioneers from years before would come together and commune and talk about these issues and talk about hip hop and try to get more of rap's community in a conscious effort to protect itself. Because of course, hip hop has always been under attack. That should go without saying. Because it was created not by any of the institutions that had already existed, but a new one that was birthed in the streets, one that was birthed amongst regular people like you and me and the people that we know that may not be on this phone call. But at that time, those individuals would try to come together in these meetings of the minds and talk about things. One being the violence peaking in the 1980s, and then in the late 80s, those same groups that came together and created the Stop the Violence movement. Did the song Self-Destruction. Shortly years after that, there was Human Education Against Lies. Lots of lectures, and some of the first times you saw hip hop's more prominent figures like KRS-One, like Chuck D, lecturing in universities, colleges, everywhere. And so
just one moment, Sir Malik. I know we have a couple of Spanish speaking people. I just want to make sure toda la gente puede entender que está hablando ahora. Él está diciendo la historia, cuando él estaba trabajando con KRS-One y en la declaración y los 9 elementos y tratando ponerlo con el United Nations, la historia, toda la información que él pusiste junto para hacer eso. Okay? Y Cypher Uno, you can always translate in the text if you want in Spanish for them so they can follow along if I miss anything. Thank you.
Excelente. Excelente. And so, again, this organization, this preservation movement was birthed more by the cause and the demands of hip hop people themselves. And I was fortunate enough to be one of those people who sought it out, because I had always known and grew up with hip hop earlier in the 70s and the 80s and acknowledged it as more than just song and dance. So when some of the more prominent figures started stepping out in leadership, I was really, I was really interested in that. That is what really caught my attention. And so I sought that out. So after seeking that out and working with KRS-One, again, Chuck D, Kool Herc, many of the pioneers and the founders, we began to do a lot of this research and put out census data that was brought back. One of the first was on KRS-One's I Got Next album, where that was looked at as one of hip hop's first census, where we was able to collect data and information from our community and from the culture itself, right? To more or less ask some very important questions about what is hip hop to them? What did it mean? What elements, if any, do they identify with? Questions like this. And so when the record companies had taken everything that they needed from it, theirs was more on what you would call quantitative, right? They were interested in the quantitative values, how much of the population was from a certain region or a city, or what was their gender or age, things like that. But because hip hop meant more to me, more to people, as you know, like a KRS, I started really delving much deeper into this information and began to find more qualitative values, right? So the record companies, when the album came out and what have you, they were interested in the quantity. What I began to uncover was the quality of what those responses were saying about what hip hop meant to them and what they would like to see more from hip hop. And also, they were very encouraging for whoever it was that was reading their responses and taking the time to be able to interpret whatever they were interested in and what they thought was important. That was
Speaking
really
of interpret,
do it.
real quick. So just verify, you're saying that in the back of the I Got Next album, you guys put the questionnaire that sort of formed the questions that built the declaration, correct?
Well, not the declaration. This is
Put
what
the information together, the research.
this is what more or less represented that there was a large proportion of hip hop people that were interested more so in its preservation than the value of entertainment and commercialism. That's
Okay,
really
all right.
what came out of that information. From
All
that,
right. So
we began.
I can't translate that in Spanish, but let me try to explain what I can.
Thank you.
Él está diciendo que en el álbum que KRS hiciste que se llaman I Got Next, en la falda apunte una, ¿cómo se dice? Un questionnaire, una papel con preguntas de qué es importante a la gente que está buscando, escuchando la música de hip hop y parte de la cultura de hip hop. Y cuando esa información volver a la record station, ¿cómo se dice? El record label. El record label está buscando para números, para cuánta gente dice eso, cuánta gente quiere eso, pero ellos, la gente de la tempo de hip hop, estaba buscando por la información que dice qué es la cosa que es importante, no solamente los números, pero qué la gente está diciendo que está apostando a él. Y eso se empezaste la información para el research, para empezar la cosa de la declaración y los 9 elementos. And short. If I missed anything, Simon, no, help me out. But yeah, all right, go ahead, brother.
You did an excellent job again. Thank you. Muchas gracias. And so that information really crystallized and made very clear that people were interested again in the value of the quality that hip hop brought into their lives and how it added to their lives. And so from there, all of the conferences, all of the speaking engagements, all of the community forums, all of the lectures, all of the panel discussions, all of the radio interviews, all of the, scholarly endeavors and professors and their speaking communities that we talk to, all of the various departments taking what we have been studying, they all not only fully supported it, but they also gave us their full blessing to be able to openly discuss hip hop as a culture, as a community of people who were bonded together, connected by breaking, MCing, DJing, graffiti art, beatboxing, language, knowledge, fashion, entrepreneurialism as well. Okay. So all of these elements have been present since the beginning time. It's just that some of them were underneath the surface, so to speak. They didn't get the spotlight. And so our work at that time was really fighting against a number of other forces like we fight today. But back then, some of the arguments were others trying to suggest that hip hop stood for other things, or, for example, anything from the ghetto and Black is hip hop, or anything that a subjective individual from the ghetto, right, could say is hip hop, then that is what it is. These were a lot of the misconceptions because most people hadn't put the study in. Well, putting that study in not only helped me to be more clear about what I had been experiencing through my years growing up, but it also helped me to see that we can make choices when life is bringing us challenges, when life is presenting adversity, when life is presenting destruction and death and hurt, violence, pain, suffering, right? When life is presenting these things, we can respond with picking better choices and making better decisions to guide us past or to guide us through those storms. And so that's why it became so powerful, because of course, violence, pain, suffering, right? These things, sickness, hatred, ignorance, poverty, right? These things aren't going away. What's happening is people are either learning to better adjust and deal with them, or there's more suffering, there's more pain, right? There's more violence. And that's kind of the trend that we see happening. We see it vacillating from back and forth. Okay. And so this is where we began to talk about how do we protect not only hip hop, but by stating, what do we believe in? Who are we? Right?
Real quick, let me try to get some of that out.
Come on.
Antes que esa información estaba juntada, cuando él lo puso toda la información de la preguntaría de la gente que está importante, antes de eso, todas las compañías, el televisión, el radio stations, piensa que si eres de negros es hip hop, si eres del ghetto es hip hop, si eres de la gente que es pobre es hip hop. Pero cuando él existe esa información y estaba mirándolo como una cientista, como un anthropology, mirando la cultura y examining it, testing it, para saber qué es importante a la gente. Eso es la información que empezaste a poner la información que hip hop era una cultura. Y pues, con esa información, él con gente como KRS estaba avisando qué es el código de la calle, qué es el código del hip hop. Y eso, con esa información, puede ver que esa información, cuando míralo como una cultura, puede hacer más para la gente en la calle y puede, como se dice antes, puede ayudar con la pobre y la violencia y los gangas y todo eso, porque la cultura tiene virtues, values, algo así. Y eso es el principio que él estaba pensando, qué es la cosa que va a ayudar a la gente. Y eso es que empezaste la conversación que últimamente se llegó con la declaración de paz. And, in short, I told them basically what you said, that before this study, before this information came together, they thought that if it was Black, it was hip hop, it was from the ghetto, it was hip hop. But when you started getting this information and putting it together, that's what, and like you alluded to what you told me had before, this is what started putting together the ideas and the questions of what are the principles that we should be living by? What is the code that hip hop should be living by? And, to move us along a little bit to get to why we created the declaration, and let's take a look at, specifically the principles and what they mean and what the benefits of them were.
Well, and thank you. That's very important. But what I'm trying to do is honestly take a little bit more time to unpack some of the forces that were at play, because it is very important for us to see that many of these forces have become more unchecked, more unstable, right?
Gotcha.
And so this is very clear when we see many of the events taking place, especially not just here in the United States, right? Look at everything that's going on in South America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about everything that's going on across Europe when we see what's going on through Southeast Asia with Myanmar, and a lot of this oppression, a lot of this aggression that's taking lives as we speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taking more and more lives as we speak. So it's embroiling lots and lots of people, right? Everything seems to be creeping closer and closer, because nobody really knows when some shit is going to jump off right in their neighborhood or right down the street from where they are or in their job, right? We don't know, and a lot of these issues are really...
You're right. So let me explain that. Él está diciendo que él está diciendo eso es información porque eso es la historia, cómo está en la calle, en la gente, y ahora en todo el mundo, en todos los lugares, en Sudamérica, en África, en Europa, hay gente que está peleando y cosas malas que está pasando en todos los lugares, pero ese es la información que él estaba buscando en ese tiempo es que él es importante hacer ver qué está pasando cuando él lo hizo eso, porque lo mismo está pasando ahora y es por eso que nosotros está hablando de la declaración, porque hay mucha gente que no está hablando de eso, pero eso somos el código que la gente de la cultura de hip hop puede vivir y puede usar eso para enseñar a los jóvenes. Y por eso él está diciendo qué estaba pasando en ese tiempo cuando él empezar a escribir la declaración con toda la otra gente. All right, go ahead, brother.
So again, it's important for us to be able to evaluate and study the forces and a lot of the principalities of darkness that we see channeling and growing and expanding around the world, because it's what's contributing to every breakdown. And none of us clearly want to be a part of that breakdown. Well, back in those days, right? Back in those days, the pioneers came together and they were the ones who authored and put together this document and chose which principles, because they actually were much more. What they really wanted to stand out and speak to were the fact that, first and foremost, we are hip hop. We are now defining hip hop for ourselves as the people who created it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what it stands for, right? Mm-hmm. What does it stand for, and what is our meaning and purpose? Those are some of the main issues that they chose to speak to, because in those years.
Say that again, because I forgot the first two. Say that again. What were they? So I can translate them.
So, first thing, we are hip hop.
La cosa que está mirando es, en ese tiempo, los factos es, primero, nosotros somos hip hop.
We are defining hip hop.
Nosotros somos diciendo ahora qué es hip hop, no esperando para ellos para decir, pero nosotros está diciendo ahora qué es hip hop.
What does hip hop mean?
¿Qué es cómo se dice? Cypher, help me, el meaning de hip hop.
And
I forget little words like that sometimes, el meaning. Like Spanish, I told you.
¿Qué significa el hip hop?
Hip hop. Okay, thank you.
Excelente. Muchas gracias. And then the last was, what is the purpose? What is hip hop's purpose?
Damn, I don't know how to say purpose. Cypher, how you say purpose?
Es como decir cuál es el propósito.
Excellent.
Okay, that'll work. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. And so in those times, that was why the 18 principles that were presented actually came to be. There were actually more than 18, but they were able to break it down. But even then, they knew that it would grow beyond, because that was hopefully the point, right? People would start to look and view hip hop differently, and not just as song and dance, but as consciousness, the way you think, right? The way you live, right? The way you eat, what you eat, your dress code, right? Your language, the way you approach situations. We are connected by elements and many mores and things that connect us as a community of people. It's not
Real
just
quick,
song.
let me do that. Cuando he cito en principios de declaración, hay más que 18, pero él con toda la gente lo pusiste a 18 para un lugar a empezar. Para la generación que viene después puede hacer más, porque está pensando diferente ahora. Ahora solamente con esta declaración y las reglas, hip hop no solamente es una baila, un rapper, DJ, pero también es cultura. Que se comen, la ropa que se ponen, cómo se hable, cómo se piensa, y con todo eso, la declaración es un lugar a empezar, pero es la generación que viene después que puede hacer más, como el Constitution del United States tiene amendments después. Tiene Constitution y después tiene amendments, puede hacer lo mismo con la declaración de hip hop. Y nosotros somos la generación que puede hacer eso. Por eso estoy hablando de eso hoy.
So You know, of course, we could just begin and just read this information, but I think it's more valuable when you begin to look at the circumstances that culminated and why these things were important. It was the oppression, it was the violence, right? It was the self-destruction, it was the drug abuse, it was the rape, right? It was everything continuing to grow, continuing to expand, you know, and touch more and more families, more and more communities. And as we see, no community is really protected except those that choose and make decisions that protect them before these events occur. You want to translate that one?
I mean, no, I think it was pretty simple, pero la cosa mala que está pasando, la violencia, los rap, los policías, los gangas, todo eso es una sistema que obviamente no sirve, y por eso él estaba pensando qué puede hacer para cambiar eso y para poner, you know, una regla que nosotros podemos vivir. And I'm summarizing because a lot of that I don't remember how to put into words, but that's the gist of it.
I just wanted you to pass that on.
Right.
So again, this was back in 2000, right? We're talking about back in 2000, right?
Yeah.
But here we are now in 2021. And one of the things that I chose to write about and speak about in this book are, again, the people and what's important for the people, because the people themselves are speaking and yet have, you know, continued to be not listened to, unheard, put on mute. We don't get to hear what the community really hears and thinks. We may hear a couple of artists, right? We may hear a couple of famous celebrities speak, but very few times do we actually get to learn context and substance about what does this community of culture really say for itself and about itself, or is it just what we see on the radio, on television videos, and everything, the images that are constantly bombarded? Clearly, the truth is that is not what hip hop speaks for itself, right?
So, quick question: your book is not available in Spanish yet, is it?
It is not, and I will rectify that starting tonight.
Okay.
En español.
Libra que está él tiene on Amazon. In Spanish is Paz en la hora de guerra. In English,
anybody willing to translate? Group, hey, I'm looking for somebody who can translate. We might as well spread the wealth right here. Share the wealth right here, starting. If anybody in this group wants to participate in the translation of Peace in Time of War so that we can put it out there in Espanol, please get in touch with me. Prism, you know how to direct them from there. But again,
all right, yeah, we got a couple people.
You know, this again, here we are in 2021. So what's the point, right? What's the point? Well, one, we don't have to fight and try to determine who we are and what we stand for in light of the situations that we see facing us today. And these are the things that can really help and enable people to make better choices and make better decisions, right? Because a lot of things aren't in question to you, whereas they may be in question to others, okay? And so—
all right, so real quick, you said a lot. I want to get some response, some questions, some interaction real quick. Hay preguntas, hay información que quiere saber más específicamente. Va a revisar la declaración, pero él está diciendo qué pasó, porque en ese tiempo, en 2000, ellos saben que necesito algo así, porque toda la cosa mala que está pasando y nadie tiene una regla, no hay una organización de hip hop. Solamente Zulu Nation en ese tiempo, tiempo de hip hop, pero Zulu Nation estaba haciendo la cosa de Zulu Nation. El tiempo de hip hop quiere hacer la cosa para United Nations, para todo el mundo de hip hop. Como él dice siempre, nosotros somos una familia de Zulu, pero hip hop es más grande. Y la cosa que hip hop puede hacer es más grande de hip hop. Ahora la generación de hip hop es 75 y menos. Todos los pioneers de hip hop son 60 ahora. Entonces, el Hip Hop Nation es toda la gente que viene de 65 después. Y por eso, en ese tiempo, está diciendo que es la regla por la nación, la cultura en grande de hip hop. Y con eso es mucha información. Hay preguntas. Dime si hay preguntas o you know, algo que está pensando, dime. In English too, we're taking a moment right now. If there's any questions or anything you want to address, or anything you want to know more specific about, let me know. The book is available on Amazon. I will share the link at some point tonight. Remind me before I go. If not, I share it on Chosen Zulu all the time on Facebook. I'll share it again tonight. But it's Peace in Time of War on Amazon. It's not available in Spanish yet, but he's willing to, take any help from anybody that's interested in translating. Any questions, comments, statements, brothers, sisters? All right. I think we're doing pretty good then.
All right, good.
Una
So,
pregunta.
Oh, sí, dime.
Sabiendo que ya del vamos la cultura hip hop era traía todos estos problemas y estas diferencias raciales y controversiales entre ellos mismos incluso. ¿Por qué dejaron pasar tantos años? Si hay algo, el por qué dejaron pasar tanto tiempo. Estamos hablando 47 años, donde esperaron al 2001 para darse cuenta que había que hacer los derechos o escribir algo para marcar un territorio más pacífico. ¿Por qué esperaron tantos años? A pesar de todo, ¿no? Del interés personal de cada uno, del crecimiento y demás. ¿Por qué se sembró tanta diferencia entre las personas para poder llegar a un 2001, para poder intentar hacer derechos de paz? Esa sería mi pregunta primero.
Sí, en parte dije antes que con ¿cómo se dice? El murder. Cuando Biggie y Tupac se murió, eso es una cosa que se volvió toda la cultura y nación de hip hop para abrir sus ojos a el danger, el peligro que estaba en esa hora. Por eso también recuerdo que en 2001 solamente era como 25 años. Un joven, un niño. Hip hop es una cultura que nació en la calle con jóvenes de 16 y 17 años. No era antes de 2001 cuando ellos tienen 35 y 40. Ahora que está pensando como hombre y como mujer para qué pueda hacer para hacer más paz en la calle, porque está matando a Biggie y Pac. Todo el voces más grande de hip hop se murió y los elders, el señor, el pioneer que empezaste estaba pensando ahora en 35, en 40 como adultos, ¿qué pueda hacer para hacer menos eso? And quickly to summarize, she asked, why did it wait so many years? Why did they wait till 2001? And his brother briefly touched on it earlier. He said that the death of Biggie and Pac was a real awakening. And I explained as a reminder that you got to remember in 2001, hip hop was only about 25 years old. And all the brothers and sisters that started it were only 15, 16, 17 years old when they started. So it wasn't until 2001 when they were 35 and 40 years old that they started to think like adults and realize, damn, look, our biggest voices are getting killed. We got to do something to change this. And that was sort of the catalyst of bringing it together at that time and why it happened at that time and not sooner or later. Am I correct?
You are correct as usual, but also add that there were attempts before this.
Ellos lo trataron a hacerlo antes de eso, pero es cuando eso pasó que la otra gente estaba oyendo ahora. And you tried to do it before that, but it wasn't until that happened that other people started thinking and listening and paying attention.
Exactly. And in many ways, by me being able to see a lot of that up front, what I was able to understand at a much later point, which you'll, be able to read in the book, is it's fine when a celebrity or somebody who you may see on television or on the radio that you may hear or what have you is saying these things, but when does it really, take root? When does it have more value? Is when it's a value that the people have, right? When it's an attribute of what we stand for, right? When you look at your household and you choose to have peace and order in your household. Why is there peace and order? Because you have fairness. There is justice. There is righteousness in your home.
Right.
Try to raise your family and your children based on things that are more rooted in substance that's going to help them to lead a better life, instead of the things where you make your rules up as you go along, right? And this is not the way of hip hop. This has never been. It's been a part of, and there are people in our community that do in fact think these ways, but that is not the central thinking, right? The central thinking is based in principles. It's rooted in spiritual principles. And that's what you'll ultimately find in this hip hop declaration of peace. They are a call to our human rights, because as we see every year, every day, more and more human rights are becoming the issue, no matter where you live, no matter where you are. And my goal in writing this book and being able to draw people's attention back to the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace is to understand that this is a beginning. And you'll find that when you read these principles, some of us are already doing some of these things. However, we are in a stage and in a time where we would clearly be greater, and we would be able to gain more advantage if we were to begin to connect and do them together.
True. True. Y la libra que él escribió es, ¿cómo se dice? Based on la misma información de los principios, pero en más información del mundo. Y por ejemplo, el libro que él escribió, él dice qué está pasando en Francia con el hip hop y con el Nigerian. Él dice la información que pasó en China y con la generación de hip hop en China. Él dice que estaba pasando en Europa y toda la cosa que pasando con las reglas y los inmigrantes y toda esa información y la generación de hip hop. Y para entender todo el mundo que puede ver está pasando en todo el mundo de estos principios, pueda hacer un código que puede empezar para todo el mundo a un lugar que puede empezar con esto y hacer más. Como ahora necesite es posible que necesito más información de protección de los niños y las mujeres, algo más que puede decir. Por eso estoy revisándolo ahora, y el libro de él es para nosotros a mirar más claro en los principios de declaración, los mismos juntos. Y por eso yo tengo a él, porque cuando yo quiero información de algo, yo voy al source, yo voy a la gente que lo hice, que lo dice, que lo empezaste. Lo mismo que yo hice con hip hop. When I need some information, I go to the source, right? So I don't just settle for somebody's secondhand view. So this brother is one of the people that was there in the beginning. So I go to that the same way I did with hip hop. When I got into hip hop and they told me these guys are the Zulu Nation and Africa Bambaataa started, I said, who are they? Introduced me to them. 13, 14 years old, and I went and I started studying. So I'm gonna go to the source to find out what we need to know from the people who were there and the mindset of what was there, so that way we can start to analyze it ourselves. It's the same thing I teach about the Bible. When we say it's a 2,000-year-old writing, we have to look at it from the level of understanding that they were at when they wrote it, and understand that we have to modernize it and update. So it's the same thing he did with his book. It's sort of like updating the details on why they put together the principles and how it affects us as a global scale. And this way it puts more reflection back on us looking at the principles of the declaration and what we can do and improve them. And the example I gave, like maybe with recent events, we might put a little more emphasis for protection for the children and women, because apparently that's something that people are not really getting, and that's why I want to review it so we can see where it is and isn't touched on it. So with that, we got a few more minutes, at least around 8 o'clock. I want to get started to looking at the principles. So go ahead, brother.
So let's jump right into that, because again, right, these are decisions, right? These are what do we stand for? What do we believe, right? So let me start with just one of them. The source and essence of hip hop is beyond entertainment. The elements of hip hop culture may be traded for money, honor, power, respect, food, shelter, information, and other resources. However, hip hop, its culture, and citizens cannot be bought, nor is it or they for sale.
All right, so hold on. Which one are you looking at?
This is Principle 7.
All right, so because I want to zoom in. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let me pull it up on the website.
So,
This way, because I also have it there in Spanish. So actually, you could read it in English. We'll listen, and then they can read it in Spanish. But just let me know which one you're reading so I can pull it up. You said 7, right?
yeah.
Okay. Él está leyendo el 7, el séptimo principio. Puede leerlo en español, él va a leerlo en inglés. All right. So start that over again so we could listen. I was confused.
So again, the source and essence of hip hop is beyond entertainment. The elements of hip hop culture may be traded for money, honor, power, respect, food, shelter, information, and other resources. However, hip hop, its culture, and citizens cannot be bought, nor is it or they for sale. Hip hop cannot be transferred nor exchanged by or to anyone for any compensation at any time or any place. Hip hop is the priceless principle of our self-empowerment. Hip hop is not a product. Now,
Boom, right there. Real quick, before you do it, does anybody disagree with that or think that's incorrect? And also for the Spanish-speaking people that can speak English, side uno, is that a decent translation on the website according to what you heard him say?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It definitely is.
Okay. And anybody have an opinion about that statement? Do we agree with that? Do we disagree with that?
Completely agree.
Yeah. Last man, I see you on the call. What do you think? Does that make sense?
My audio coming through? I agree.
All right. Go ahead, brother. What was your emphasis on picking that one?
so thank you all for chiming in on that. But that is, in my opinion, just one of the gateway principles, right? See, that's a gateway principle. Why? Because most people still look at hip hop as song and dance. That's what they interpret it as, because they see the rappers on television, they see the beat girls breaking, they see the fashion. It's an entertainment thing. So what most people don't realize, obviously, like those of myself and many of you here tonight, is that no, hip hop actually is much, much more than that. That may be just what you see, because in rap music, right? Rap is something you do, hip hop is something you live. And that's the beginning of an understanding that takes us back to principle 1. Now, let's jump through these. Let's go to principle 1 real quick. And you might want to blow it up a little bit or zoom in on it a little bit better.
Yeah, okay, no doubt. Good looking. Y también, si
Uno.
está usando en los teléfonos, puede pinchar el screen para hacerlo más grande. Yo me olvidé eso. If you're using your cell phone, you can actually pinch in on your screen to make the image a little bigger if it's not big enough. Just FYI. But definitely let me know if you need to make it bigger.
So uno.
There we go. Primer principio.
So let's honor Señora's preguntas about what do we really stand for when it comes to families, when it comes to our children. Well, as a father, as a grandfather, as a husband, this is one that I'm very proud to read. Hip hop is a term that describes our independent collective consciousness. Perpetually expanding and growing, it is commonly expressed through the elements breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing, beatboxing, street language, fashion knowledge, and street entrepreneurships, right? Those are our elements. Now let's go to 2. Go to 2. So while that principle 1 may represent our meaning, what hip hop is, right? Hip hop is consciousness. It's the way people think. It's a mindset, if you will. It's an attitude that one generally begins to adopt when they begin to see that everything is also something else. So jumping to principle 2 really quickly.
Segundo,
Hip hop culture respects the dignity and sanctity of life without discrimination or prejudice. Hip hop should further and thoroughly consider the protections and development of life over and before the individual decision to destroy or seek to alter its natural development. That's principle 2. And I think that answers not only her question, but it opens up a whole lot of conversation. It opens up a whole lot of doors, because while we may see individuals using the elements of hip hop to say things that are counterproductive to this kind of wisdom and information, it is up to us to correct the record. It is up to us to correct the record. But how can we correct the record if we do not all know, if we're not all on the same page? And that's what these principles do. They help us to get on the right page, because as we start making these decisions, right, as we start making these better choices, we don't have to start from scratch. And we can start beginning to understand what does in fact connect us and how, and thus opening the doors for us to better address the situations that we see happening in front of us, right? In our own communities, in our own households, in our own lives, because that's really where it begins. It begins on how you choose to approach situations, right? There's a lot of things we go through in life, some good, we go through things that are bad, and we go through things that are indifferent. But instead of giving all your focus on what we go through, try to begin to shift and understand that also you must consider how you're going to go through that situation. If it's a storm, right? How am I going to get through this problem? If you're having a problem in the household, or if you're having a problem at the job, communications breaking down, how do I respond? Well, this is where your beginnings, right? This is where you're
real quick, let me try to do that. Primero, hay preguntas de eso, pero segundo, está diciendo cuando leer eso, el segundo principio, que está pensando no solamente qué estás dealing with, how do you say, qué estás haciendo, que la problema que tiene ahora, pero cómo va a cambiarlo, cómo va a hacer mejor. No solamente que hay un problema, pero cómo va a correctarlo. Y con eso, eso es uno de los principios que empieza a pensar eso. In paraphrasing. If it makes sense to me, it makes sense to me, and it's stated in a way where I feel like it's universal, and it can apply to several different, circumstances and situations. But I feel like this is why, similarly to a constitution, it was written the way that it is, so that way it can apply to many circumstances. All right, want to move to the next one?
Well, I'm going to stop there, because
right.
Again, this is what we stand for when it comes to life. And when people wonder, there's so much violence in hip hop, well, that's because there's violence in society. There's violence, right, out in our communities. There's violence everywhere, right? It's all around us. And the only protections we're ever going to have, right? The only protections we're going to have are the ones that we choose, the ones that we decide, knowing that these are some of the forces that we deal with. Now, granted, they may not be the same in Paris as they are in Brixton, right? They may not be the same as they are, from San Salvador, right? As they are in Miami. They may not be the same, but yet they present challenges that we as a people who have gone through very much can make better decisions and use those experiences before to make better decisions in the now and in the future. This is what we must teach our children. This is the kind of thinking we got to pass on to them, that they are solutionaries. But when they are able to see a solutionary, that is the pinnacle of this kind of information, because we know the things and the conflict isn't going to just stop. But how do we walk a path of peace, even though there is destruction all around us? Well, it can and it will be done. The question is, will it be you? Are you
All
an
right.
individual ready to make
And
that
with
kind
that, let's take a quick break, a quick moment real quick, because we do have a few more people that joined us that I'm glad to see are here today. Shout to one of the guys I see on here that I've, first time I'm getting to see what he actually looks like is my brother Atama. I'm glad to see that you made it, brother. How do you like what you hear so far? How do you feel about the discussion?
Yeah, first of all, blessings of peace. I'm based in
And where are you
Borneo,
calling from? There you go.
in Asia.
Thank you.
Based in Asia. So I just came in about 5 minutes ago. So
Okay.
kind of understanding is that there is now a call for making a declaration of peace. So I'm just gonna sit tight here and just follow the conversation, and I can come in and to the floor and say a piece of my mind. But let's just get this going. I think there's a fantastic energy here. I think the concept of the discussion so far is identifying the principles of humanity and the principles of essence for the society and the culture that we love. Hip hop, you know, we're all over the world, and we come from many backgrounds of struggles. Different people in different regions have our own a struggle, but when we stand on the hip hop as an expression, cultural expression in today's society, I think the time has come for a universal declaration of the principles of essence of being a purveyor of the sciences and the spirituality of hip hop. So just some words from me. Maximum respects to everybody out here today.
Love it, love it. Beautiful words. Well said. And just to clarify, we're on the call today with Sir Malik One, who was one of the guys who helped put together the original Declaration of Peace back in 2001 when they brought it to United Nations with KRS and over 300 other hip hop activists, stars, you know, recording label, record labels, all, you know, everybody. 2001, look it up. March 16th, I believe, 2001, they brought it to the United Nations and got it passed nationally, internationally rather. And he's also an author of the book called Peace in Time of War, which is a socio-political awareness book about hip hop and its effects all over the world and the world's effects on hip hop as well. Great book, available on Amazon in physical copy or Kindle, I believe. So it's available immediately if you want it. And so I like to go to the source. I like to go to the people that were there that wrote it at the time so they can explain to us why they did it the way that they did. So we're taking some time to review it here today while he has time to spend with us. But real quick, you know, I know there's a few people that came on late, so I always like to recap, you know, a little bit about what we discussed. So far he's explained, you know, the background, not only however all the research that he's done not only went to building, oh no, I'm sorry. Not only did it go to creating all the principles and the information that also became the you know, built on the elements that they had also put together at the time, but also the information that he put together in his book, which is for me one of those things where we have these conversations all the time about what goes on around the world and what's happening in your country and what's happening in our countries. And it's very rare that we see a book or a documentation that explains it in a way that we can understand it and actually perceive it. You know, for most of us, we hear something's going on in Africa, it's all the way in Africa. We don't really think about it. You know, something's going on in China, oh, it's going on in China. We don't really think about it. Vice versa, when you guys are on the other side of the world and you hear something's going on in Minnesota or Tennessee or New York, you're like, oh, there goes those Americans again, always on some crazy stuff. But you don't really see it from each other's perspective until a book like this comes along. And that's why for me, it's very important. As socio-aware as I am, because I've been connected to brothers like you and sisters like you internationally for decades, I found myself being apathetic reading this book, like realizing that I was sort of apathetic. Like I really didn't care too much about what was going on with French and the Algerian immigrants and everything that's going on, because it didn't affect me, you know? And it's one of those things I feel like in America we take for granted. And I tell brothers all the time, anywhere else in the world, the United States would be 50 different countries, you know, where you got to go through a border check to get from New York to New Jersey or Connecticut or, you know, from state to state. And we sort of take that for granted because anywhere else it is. You have to go through border checks and customs checks and passports and all that just to get to work, which is what's happening with the French and the Algerian situation. You know, they have to immigrate over there in order to get to work, but there's all kinds of standards and things held against them that I was apathetic to until I read this book. You know, so for me, it gives all of us, especially us who are educators and leaders and teachers, a much grander vision of the hip hop world that we're really a part of. And it takes you out of just your little neighborhood and your little personal issues that you're dealing with, and you can see it on a grander scale. And definitely, I know I said a lot. I'll try to remember what I said in Spanish. Yeah, if you remember any of that Cypher one, try to do me a favor, put it in the text for me, because, you know, I know it's a lot. But again, you know, the importance of his book, la libra de él, él va a hacerlo en español, pero la libra de él enseña a nosotros la peleas y los problemas de todos otros lugares en el mundo, no solamente de nosotros. Como yo dice en América, cuando yo oye a nosotros oye cosas que está pasando en África, no le importa porque está en África. Y en otro lado, a nosotros en Sudamérica o en Europa, cuando oye cosas de América, los americanos haciendo esas cosas again hoy, pero no le importa porque tú no puedes verlo. Pero ese libro que él escribe, Paz en la hora de guerra, Peace in Time of War, él está enseñando nosotros, los líderes, los enseñadores, la información que está pasando en otros lugares. Y cuando puedes verlo de otros lugares, cómo está haciendo, puede hacer mejor en tus lugares. No solamente para cambiarlo, pero también para, ¿cómo se dice? Prevent it, para hacer cosas para ensurar que no va a pasar en tus lugares. Cuando tú puedes leer una libra que enseña qué pasó allá. You know, so definitely he's going to work on getting that in Spanish. Él va a hacerlo en español cuando puede. Si puede ayudar, habla con él o habla conmigo, yo puedo conectar. Pero eso es la información porque yo tengo a él en la llamada hoy para nosotros hablar de la declaración y los principios, si es bueno así o si hay algo más que pueda hacer. That's why I have him on the call today, so not only he can share with us his overview information, and he's talking about all of you. And right now we have a really international call today, so thank you all for joining. But his book is talking a little bit about all your stories, and you guys could probably share some stories with him for his next book, which will be coming soon, that he can help get your viewpoint from your place in the world in the story in the book as well. So Dan, see, I'm doing pretty good. I'm plugging you too. But with that, any comments, any questions, any ideas, any suggestions, any of you that may have read through the declaration before, have any ideas or points? I do want to take some time to review as many as we can, but any ideas, any points, any questions? Let me see if I can get that link for you guys.
Peace.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Throw the visual of the book up there.
All right, I got you. I got it in here too. But let me pull up the Amazon link real quick. Go ahead, brother. What were you gonna say?
I'm gravitating towards Principle 10. So let me pull it up. Principle 10 states, hip hop is encouraged to build meaningful and lasting relationships that rest upon love, trust, equality, and respect. So that is the foundation, right, of reaching youth. That's it. Right. Youth, I mean, if forget about hip hop as a whole, those qualities and trust are the foundation to reach our youth. If they don't trust you, they don't know you, most likely, you know, they're not going to really work with you. You know what I'm saying? So I gravitate towards that. I've read through the whole thing. There's some things that, you know, I don't know. What was the one talking about, you know, respect nature and stuff? I mean, that's cool and all. Yeah, that's a given, right? Like, why cut down a tree, you know, for if you're not going to use the wood to burn it, right? Or something, right? So I'm saying that 10th principle is the key, maybe could be expanded on to focus on youth, right? I don't see I don't see anywhere in the document where it actually has the word youth or young folks, right? So maybe the
Okay.
10th principle can actually be a youth focused principle, right? So that one really stuck out to me because, you know, when I teach hip hop, I just build, you know, we're building a relationship that's meaningful where, you know, this youth or young kid, even, you know, young as second grade, third grade, fourth grade, you know, sees me as an ally, sees me as someone they can trust, someone they love, you know, and then we're on an equal playing field, even though I'm the adult and they're the child or whatever it may be. That dynamic shouldn't be an issue when we're building something together, because I can learn from them and they learn from me. You know, I learn about their experience with hip hop culture, and learn new groups and learn new dances, learn new things. I like to learn new things about what the youth are doing, right? Like I said before in other calls, we have to love the youth more than we feel how we feel personally about what they're listening to. You know what I
Hey,
mean? We may think it's like garbage, yeah, but I love them more than how I feel. You understand? So that
absolutely.
love outweighs our like hip hop purist mentality, right?
Hey, let
Like,
me
oh,
ask.
that's whack, man. That ain't MCing, that's mumble rap. If you say that to them, you're gonna build a barrier with them.
Push them away. Correct.
Let
So
me ask. He's making such good points.
and 13th principle, or wait, excuse me, principle 14. Hip hop encourages to eliminate poverty, speak out against injustice, and shape a more caring society, perfect world. Supports dialogue and action that heals divisions in society. That's restorative practices. That's restorative language. To encourage dialogue in a circle with ethics and principles and a purpose to that circle when harm is done, right? That's how we go about actions in my school. It's not about suspensions or write-ups or going to the principal's office, blah, 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 or calling the parent, right? Even though sometimes the parents got to be informed of things that happen at school, of course, because they don't want to hear from the kid, because the kid's just going to say it the way they felt it, right? But getting the community involved in healing practices, that's hip hop all the way. And you know, speaking of like, you know, the on inauguration day, real quick, you know, the Proud Boys. This guy interviewed a Proud Boy, right? And he got on there. I couldn't believe what he said. He said, "I'm a hip hop head. I can't be a racist. I'm a hip hop head." That's what he said. I was like, "What the fuck is this guy talking about, man?" Right? So, and it was real. It was in real time, right? And so he was using. So, and then I heard another story about the same time as the insurrection thingy, where this kid who went to high school, white kid, loved Tupac, right? Posters, t-shirts, fucking memorized the lyrics, albums, blah, blah, blah. But he became like a hardcore Trump supporter later on in life. You see? Like he just switched like Tupac to this shit, right? So the underlining love for hip hop wasn't in for him. I don't know what he loved, right? But what I'm saying, like, not everyone's gonna love this shit the way we do. And we have to accept that. We have to be cool with that. It's not gonna be like, you know what I mean? We like you know, cancel culture is so
When you,
prevalent. But I like those two principles. I've gone through the other ones, but I think the 10th principle can be a youth focused principle. That's my
let me say, man, you make some. We have got to build outside of this offline. I have so much to share with you, but let me direct you back to the opening of the Declaration of Peace, right? Through the principles of this hip hop declaration, we, hip hop culture, establish a foundation of health, love, awareness, wealth, peace, and prosperity for ourselves, our children, and their children's children forever.
Yeah, generational wealth. Yeah.
So I mean, but that wealth comes in the form of more emotional security, right? That wealth comes in the form of a more substantial understanding and value of life and its sanctity. So I love the point you made. And you know what? Let's get on that expand the 10th.
Well, you think of a youth man that's 10 years old, 12 years old, 15, And if they're in poverty, their sanctity of life goes down.
That's right.
Almost, right? So they're like thinking of survival mode. So
That's right.
like those things as basic needs as food, clothing, shelter does bring dignity and integrity, right? Like a fresh, like when you go to the barber shop, you take a youth to the barber shop and they get a fresh fade and a lineup and a whatever, man, you feel like $1 million, right? And that shit costs money. You know what I mean? It ain't like the barber, well, some people, the barbers give youth haircuts free and shit like that. But you know, people there's gotta be some kind of economic empowerment with this
and there is, and there is, and I think that again, that can only be examined. You know, it's like that old saying, right? We don't know what we don't measure.
Yeah.
Right. Don't know what we don't measure. And these are areas that don't, in my opinion, get nearly enough time and attention because the oxygen is always being sucked up by celebrity or entertainment or the commercial value of things. And we see all around us how all of that is crumbling. Look at how many more people do we have to see that had tried to take those paths, and look at where it got them. Right? We got so much example, it's ridiculous. The key comes down to us choosing better decisions, right? Better behavior, better thoughts, because a lot of people don't consider their thoughts to be as much a part of them as their arms, their legs, their fingers, right? Their toes. And when it comes to these kids, whether no matter where you are, because I was one of them, right? You know, that's where the elements took on such a value, just being able to practice b-boying. You know, I was a graffiti writer, a b-boy, and then a DJ. MCing then came later. But being able to practice my moves and the repetition, I think Prism and I was having a little exchange earlier where we were talking about a lot of these, you know, PhDs and social scientists being able to evaluate a little bit better the impact of practicing the definitions or practicing an element to help a lot of these kids with all kind of mental health and you know, social behavioral issues and things, and how healing it can be. Largely, again, the reason why we are studying principles.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a licensed school social worker, so like I do cognitive behavioral therapy all the time. How to recognize your emotions, you know what happens to your body when these emotions occur.
Right.
How do you recognize them? How do you channel the energy? What happens when your flight or fight, you know, comes on and you're not thinking clearly because you just, you know, about to throw a chair across the room or something. So how breathing techniques, all that stuff, is part of social work practice, right? And these kids, they're just still learning. Their frontal craniums are not fully
still developed.
So we're just trying to meet them where they're at in their cognitive ability. What, you know, how we're doing it with young kids, kindergarten, first grade. It's like what is the emotion of your face saying? You know, you do this. What is that? What is this? You know, it's images. You know, instead of auditory learning. So,
you know, you'll be pleased to know one of the reasons I'm really interested in us building. I was fortunate enough to be around this kind of information as a young man. So when I became a father, I took my kids out of public school and put them in an independent study program, and then graduated 5, all of them honors students, college bound, doing their thing. My youngest are 20 years old. So, I mean, man, I mean, and my oldest started when she was in 4th grade, just to put that in context. So they still went through the same credentialing and the same scholastic requirements as all other students in the state of California have to pass, right? But they were honor students and they would still go to their school district to do the test. It's just obviously the instruction I gave them and organized the curriculums and kind of, you know, broaden their education instead of, you know, we always attack public education, and rightfully so. Don't get me wrong, because I was a casualty of it. You dig? I was a straight casualty of it. But being able to deconstruct eventually and unlock my potential and then teach others how to do that, especially children going through all grade levels, became a very empowering experience for me. And now, you know, they are their own rocks or own foundations because they are question. They didn't get broken inside where they were taught to question their innate value. They were taught to question, things like anybody trying to get you to question your innate value, right? If anything tries to present to you to make you wonder about who you are and why you are who you are, well, that's what you should start questioning. The reality is we at ourselves. So
and real quick, one moment. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to translate that because that was a lot. But however, I do want to I want to open up the conversation a little bit.
Yeah, let's hear some other voices. I'm going to digress.
Luke, I know Brother Luke had some questions or things that this is the atmosphere, this is the time. Any concerns, any thoughts on the declaration, the wording, anything? Feel free to share.
Well, certainly. So a lot of the points that I had brought up and that I had discussed with fellow Zoos and some other people were based on not so much the actual document, but just how we prioritize the document and how we utilize the document and how effective it may be for us to be able to reach the youth. Because I know I work with about 50 youth right now on the daily building here in Los Angeles County, music-based, hip-hop-based. I help record them, mentor them one-on-one. So that's my day-to-day. And for the most part, most of the youth feel disconnected from hip hop. They don't feel like they're heard, and they separate themselves from that as a culture and that as the community that we're a part of. So being able to bridge those gaps and being able to bring together that cipher, at least locally here, and also my experience in Minneapolis, having that same experience with the younger generation, that's where a lot of the skepticism comes in, or not even so much skepticism, but just considerations in how we may be able to utilize a document like this moving forward. And some of the criticisms or some of the critiques come in when it comes to how we want to administer or deliver a document like this in this time, and when it may be best to be able to do that and be able to bridge those gaps. Because when we're talking about connecting with government institutions, or we're talking about being able to get this co-signed by cities and different places, my personal perspective is that that would create a bigger divide with our youth. They're going to respect the document less once they see it being co-signed by a mayor or by somebody like that.
I can understand that perspective. I can understand
so
that.
That's where I'm coming from with that. I think the document and everything that it represents is great in essence with what it offers, and it's a great teaching tool. It's great for us to be able to move with, but at the same time, I don't want to where I stand from within my personal perspective is putting it on the forefront of our action and standing behind it could do more harm than good if we're not using it as an instrument and putting ourselves before it and putting the youth before it, so we can be able to create that channel respectively with where they're at, in that same way that King Reyes was representing.
No, I can definitely understand that. What I would suggest as an educator, real quick, is one of the things is where's the method that we use to deliver it. So if we just try to say, hey, this is the code of the streets and everybody got to live by it now, they ain't going to respect that. But if they're part of our hip hop or our DJ program or our rap program where we're educating the lyrics and the culture, and then we say, now, you like this? This makes sense to you? And they're like, yeah. Do you feel like you're hip hop? Like, yeah. All right. So what do you think of these principles? Do you think these are good codes to live by? Do you think these are something that's still applicable today? And depending on the way we present it to them is going to determine how they receive it. So it's almost like the cool uncle versus the dad. You know what I mean? Like, they much rather go hang out with the cool uncle when he says, hey, you want to go fishing? They're like, yeah, let's go. Because they have fun with the cool uncle. But when they go with dad, it's boring because dad is freaking boring. You know what I mean? So I feel like for me, anyway, it's the method in which we choose to present it. Because for me, that Declaration of Peace has been the outline for myself, from my own experience, for at least 15 peace treaties between street gangs with guns and knives and machetes and catching each other at their schools or whatnot. That Declaration piece was the foundation, and I would just have them add specifics to their neighborhoods or their buildings or their areas or their territories or whatever. But that, because hip hop was the central piece that we could all connect through, that it was the way I used it. If I would have came through like one of the elders trying to tell the young kids to do it, they wouldn't listen. But because I was one of them, And I'm like, look, this is what we need to do, because I don't want to have to kill you and you kill me and you kill me. You know, my crew's coming back for you. So let's stop it now. Let's look at this. Can we agree on this? And this is when I'm young, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. You know what I mean? So I know from experience the way that we present it, and going to my 30s and 40s and still to this day, which is why I brought it up. And not only why I brought it up now, because we also have access to one of the co-authors, but it's coming on 20 years now. So I feel like it's about time for us to review it and take a look and determine what we can and can't do with it. But you bring up good points, and I think it's about the presentation of it. Go ahead, Malik.
I rock with that, King.
Thank you again, bro. Excellent questions. But you asked something that I addressed first, and you said, what would be the best way? I'm actually in Southern California, okay? So here's one thing. Email me and let's connect, because I'm certain, as you already know, a lot of it does depend on how something is presented, right? That really becomes a real key factor, and whether or not someone is going to be able to identify, let alone develop a bond, right? If they can't identify, then there's not going to be a bond. That's not going to happen, right?
As a matter of fact, real quick, everybody that's on the call, if possible, just put in the chat where you're calling from today. Because now you said SoCal, everybody's like, I'm in SoCal too. So now let me know, where's everybody from? Put it in the chat real quick. Go ahead, brother.
So the first thing is, let's organize amongst ourselves so that you can be better informed and better equipped to be able to answer some of these kind of critical questions, right? Because that becomes key. If I can help to empower you in this group and amongst the youngsters that you are, exposed to, and vice versa, well, that is how we can begin to broaden these bridges and gaps, so we can help a lot of these youngsters understand that they are very much connected to, right, the generation came right before them, and then them before that one, and so on and so on. See, a lot of times it is impressed upon us to believe that we are so separate from, but in all actuality, that's quite the contrary. We're very much connected. The truth of the matter is, this information isn't for everyone, because everyone isn't gonna make it. Everybody is not going to make it. And that's one thing that hip hop is very clear about. We're not here to sugarcoat anything. The reality is, know the truth, know the facts, and don't become desensitized to those facts. So again, presentation is key. All right. Presentation is key. So when it comes to any of these groups, one of the things that I do when I public speak or I teach, I also do a lot of medical case management. So in those areas and in those fields, the way you present information, knowing who you're talking to, being able to develop some type of identifiable bond, these things are key to whether or not people or youngsters are even going to give you the time of day. Fortunately for me, I'm like Priz. See, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I've just never really had a problem identifying, because that's one of the things hip hop did for me. Once I became preserved and embraced a lot of what we're talking about and used it to raise my own children and my grandchildren now, see, I now have a wisdom and an insight with the kind of information that there are certain things that it doesn't matter what generation you come from or how old you are or what your gender is. Someone said it earlier. It's about that universal understanding, being able to appeal to someone at the universal level. And that's really what it means to meet people where they are, right? When you meet somebody where they are, you have to be able to come to a common ground, a common understanding, right? I was going to use this conversation now that I know that to talk about some other things, but I just want to say this really quickly. But to answer your question definitively, let's get together. Connect with me, sirmalik1@gmail.com for anybody. Get at me. Let's speak directly. I do public speaking. It would be key to be able to pick up this book, because this book is really for you. This book is for people just like you. This book is not a book where I spend, just pages and pages and chapters talking about my own personal experiences in the rap world and running around with KRS-One and being able to kick it with Jam Master Jay and knowing that's not what this work is. This work is not for entertainment purposes. It's really to directly address a lot of the issues and the concerns. But another thing, before I jump off onto this other tangent, hold on one moment. So You also asked about, you also made mention of it being signed by public figures and public officials. And let me say to you, this issue was, in my opinion, a whole lot more hot button back after Pac and Big got killed. Lots of people did not even think we should even be going to the United Nations, let alone talking to politicians and public officials, et cetera, et cetera. This is just what most people felt, right? And rightfully so, you know, not without merit, right? But we didn't get stuck there. As someone who was pushed right to the forefront, because I was very comfortable behind the scenes, I prefer it there. But because I was pushed into leadership, I had to see that there had to be other options that we could take. And so in 2001, 2002, 2003, and in 2004, I think even all the way up to 2006 or 7, many of us in small groups went to several cities, and got their officials to recognize the third week in May as Hip Hop Appreciation Week. This is a time, unlike the all year round promotion of rap music, this is a time when we focus more on these kinds of issues that are more culturally competent, where we focus on things like consciousness, peace, unity, right? Being able to offer forgiveness, and what are the individual strengths that we can do to enhance and better ourselves for self-improvement, self-determination, et cetera, be of service and of kind to our family, our communities, et cetera, be an example of what hip hop's shining highest authority actually provides us with, right? And so there are many cities that embraced us wholeheartedly, I can tell you, and I actually helped to pioneer many of those efforts. So again, there is a lot to do with the diplomacy, and that's the perfect bridge for me to make my last point. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I must at least make one point to it. Please, if you have time, get this book. Any of you all in English, please forgive me for those who habla español. Get this book, Peace in Time of War, because what this book begins to do is it lays down the stepping stones to the next level of what I'm about to present, which is hip hop cultural diplomacy. Okay, hip hop cultural diplomacy. And what we need are people who can embrace not just these principles, but the practical application of these principles, so that we can serve as ambassadors to not just our neighboring communities and our neighboring towns and our neighbor DJ circles and B-boy circles and graph homies that we know. No, we need to start working with cats like Aries who are in the schools. And this is where I come from and what I've been doing for the last 20 some odd years, developing and building the pedagogy that you hear KRS-One teaching, called the gospel of hip hop. But that's just one source. That's just one extension. Peace in Time of War, hip hop cultural diplomacy is another extension, because we have to become more politically aware. We have to start seeing our geopolitical power that exists in this world. And if we begin to look beyond entertainment and commercialism, we not only can develop the kind of strategies that can bring the victories that we need, we're the only one who is going to bring them. No government, no other institutions, no other bodies, no other groups are going to be interested in your own self-preservation until you are. So that's what's coming next. But Hip Hop Appreciation this year is going to be honoring.
Speaking on that real quick, Hip Hop Appreciation Week is a milestone. It's something important, you know what I mean? And getting that honored by so much states is important. But it's like we were saying before, it falls on us. Just because your state passed Hip Hop Appreciation Week don't mean shit to the youth if you ain't doing nothing for Hip Hop Appreciation Week. We, as the elders, need to be setting up these hip hop appreciation events in the school, or the Jay Dilla events, like, you know, the brother Reyes is trying to do. We need to be coordinating that, so that way hip hop appreciation means, yo, Hip Hop Appreciation Week. There's gonna be like 5 parties this week. It's gonna be dope. Look forward to it. You know what I mean? Not just like Hip Hop Appreciation Week. So what? That ain't shit. You know what I mean? So let's try to make an effort. It's only February now. You know what I mean? May is a few months away. We can each be doing something in our area, in our city, where even if it's just online and virtual, let's do something for Hip Hop Appreciation Week. Otherwise, it doesn't really mean nothing. And I don't want to fall into the pattern of the elders, which some of us who came up in New York and had the privilege, and, you know, the not privilege, depending on how you look on it, of going to the hip hop anniversary every year, where it ended up becoming an old school reunion as opposed to a hip hop anniversary. You know what I mean? So we want to do the hip hop appreciation week in a way like Ray has said before, where we have to include their rappers too. Even though we may not like their songs, we got to give them a spot too, because that's why they're going to come to the event. But then at the same time, we can have a DJ do some ill scratching techniques where he's playing old music or blending old music with new music or whatever to introduce them to where it came from. But it's on us. We are the elders now. We're no longer in a position to be waiting for the ones who taught us to do things for us and show us how to do it. This is why I have this forum. This is why we created this, to get like minds from the hip hop nation around the world. Like I said, there's a lot of us that come from the Zulu families in one way or another here, but there's a lot of us that don't, that are here for hip hop, here to talk about the declaration, here to see how we can do what you guys did in our community and make it better and grow. You know what I mean? But it's on us now. There's no more waiting on somebody else to come tell us, hey, you got to go talk to so-and-so and get the permit and just, no, you got to figure out, what do I got to do to set up Hip Hop Appreciation Week for the high school in my area or for the community in my area?
But you know what, to add to that though, just to add to that.
I got somebody waiting to speak too, so I don't want to.
No, you got this, because I'm out. I gotta bounce.
All right, go ahead.
But I just must say this though. That's why we're also here to offer and provide leadership, technical assistance, right? Strategic planning, things like that. And if these are your interests to be able to do the kind of things that Prism is saying, learn from people who have been doing it. I've conducted events all over the world for Hip Hop Appreciation Week. We're just in another time where we have to continue this work and we need to replenish the ranks. And it's about you, it's about us and how much we believe in what hip hop has done for us. So I just want to say that, and you can press on.
Perfect. And quick question, just to remind us, Malik, when exactly is Hip Hop Appreciation? Is that 16th to the 23rd?
Yes, Hip Hop Appreciation Week this year. It's usually the third week of May every year annually. And this year, yes, from the 16th to the 27th, so 23rd, as you said, yes.
And real quick, before you go, last man, was did you want to speak in general or did you want to say something to Malik?
Peace. Both. I think Malik, what's the name of the book? Hip Hop in the Time of War?
Peace in Time of War.
Peace in Time of War.
Peace in the Time of War. Okay. So yeah, that's what I'm I think Luke touched on a couple of things like me and Luke were building on earlier or in the week, and we had hit up Prism about. But basically, and Ray has also said, I think, what is important and what our concerns were, as we talked about last week, all the old heads, the pioneers on the outside, the people that we talked about were co-signing this, even government officials, things like that. But like yourself, I'm here in Southern California. I'm in the jungles right now. If anybody knows where the jungles are, if you've seen Training Day, that's where Denzel Washington is with all the Bloods. I'm right here in the war zone. You know what I'm saying? So we were talking about who, meeting the youth where they're at. As Ray has said, if you're in abject poverty, how can how can I give you we need to be at peace. If I'm in the favelas in Brazil and my family ain't eating, fuck peace. I'm finna go get this bread. You know what I'm saying? So, I think me and Luke were talking about who can we get in the hip hop rap community in this day and age to add on or co-sign what we're doing that the youth will hear. I said, if Nipsey were alive still, he would be the perfect person. You know what I'm saying? I agree. We need to find people who, and I'm sure, I'm just one person, that we're all here, if we can put our heads together and find who can we get to get on board with us and co-sign this, that
you got yourself unmuted, last man.
Ash, you went on mute, fam.
Okay, my bad. I was saying, I feel like, who can we get to co-sign and add on with us that the youth will listen to? You know what I mean? Whether they're old school or new school. I know me and Luke right now are doing some video documentation of LA hip hop history, and we just did the first video interviewing Chase Infinite of Self Scientific. And somebody told me the other day, one of the youngsters, when I was telling them about who's that, You know what I mean? A lot of them don't even know who the people who are important to us are. So I'm really trying to figure out, you know, and there's a lot of us here, who can we get to add on and co-sign what we're doing that the youth are gonna say, okay, this person's down with it. You know, I'm more open to it. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I think? You know what I think? First of all, let me say this. Man, I got to build with you.
Okay.
Man, you got to talk. All right?
Okay.
Man, you got to talk. We got phone numbers, things, right? But let me say this to you. This is my opinion now. All right? This is my opinion, what I'm about to share with you.
Okay.
Because I'll be 51 this year. All right?
I'm 45. I got you.
Good. Just to put it in perspective, right? Here's honestly what I think. You are the one. You are the one. Now, I get it. Having the name recognition, to be able to add on, right? The name recognition to be able to add on. Yes, it does help, et cetera, et cetera. But what I'm thinking and what I feel, and in my opinion, and based on my experience, is every time the community looks to an entertainer, right, to be able to voice this message or pioneer this message or, you know, pilgrim this message, it fails. It fails largely because many of them are beholden to a business model and a lifestyle that has no cares or concerns about really whether or not we become self-governed or, you know, or we suffer and we fail and we become something extinct that they talk about that used to just happen, right? I have honestly more faith in you, brother. I got more faith in you. Give me 5 minutes of give me 10 minutes of your time, just us, to build on some of the things that I'm touching on. And you then let me know. You let me know if I'm off base or whatever the case is, because in my estimation, right, and in my calculation, you have more greater innate value to the community that we talking about, we describing, than them motherfuckers ever could, excuse my language. But whether it's you or, you know, I mean, I got family that's Grape Streets. I got family that's, you know, that's Denver Lanes. I got family. I'm from Chicago myself. You know, we go back to the Gangster Disciples and the Vice. I mean, I could go through, we could walk through.
I'm a Gangster Disciple, but I'm here in the jungle. So
yeah, exactly.
Along with all those. My OG Pyrus was here the other day, my Panther elders that all grew up in all those hoods that you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I definitely have connections with all them and you know, the gods and earths out here, the Moors, all of them. You know what I'm saying? We definitely need to get together. I'm surprised you being in Southern California that I haven't connected with you before. You know, I'm down with a lot of
hip
hop heads. I'm down with Save and Caddy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys
and,
crossed paths
before
because you told me.
See, I'm their elder. I'm the one. Yeah, I'm the one who opened the doors and made them more palatable because, of course, you know, it was a different time. I actually, when we was on the last call, I think I told Prism, I do believe we've met. I actually believe we met.
I think we was it in Whittier or something? I think I might have met you when KRS was speaking at the Temple of Hip Hop meeting that time when he brought up Mondo and he had the books in the front. It was at a church.
Yes, Spirit.
Okay,
was it Pasadena or some shit?
Yeah, Pasadena. Okay,
we was in Pasadena.
Yeah, that's where I think we met before. Yeah, I was thinking about that.
But so, you know, so just so you know, so I'm a founding member. I'm one of the people who started the temple with KRS. And so to the young brothers who came up after, who, you know, I held the door open for and gave as much as time and support because, you know, again, running an organization, you got to deal with a number of things. One of them being group dynamics, okay? And when it comes to group dynamics, one thing you'll know about me, and I'm glad to hear you mention, because you mentioned your Panther elders. Do you know Kwaku?
I know who he is. He's not one of someone that I'm down with all the time, but I know exactly who he is. Yeah,
that's my brother, Kwaku Duran and Akbar, the graffiti, the muralist, who's done half the murals all through downtown LA and shit on the west side.
I know exactly the Panther murals and stuff. Yeah.
Those are mine from back. Yeah, those are the people that embraced me when I first came out here to LA. We got a lot of intersections, me and you. And
yeah,
so
I'm down with Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. and the Black Panther Party Cubs. You know what I'm saying? But they based out of Chicago. But I'm one of the Cubs out here. But I get down with, I'm sure Mansa Musa L.
yeah.
A bunch of the elders out here. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure we don't need to waste other people's time throwing out names here. But I'm sure we know a lot of the same people build with the same community.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
And
Are you in LA?
No, actually, I'm in the high desert now. I bought a home.
Okay.
Desert. Me and my wife, we raised the kids. We used to live off 120th in Vermont.
Okay.
That's what
I know exactly where that is.
Exactly.
My son's mom lives in Victorville, so it's all good.
So
right?
Exactly.
So look, that's what we do. We bring people together. We connect like minds, so this way we can start building this foundation and making it stronger. And just to piggyback on what you said, Malik, this is what I've been saying. I had a conversation with a brother the other day that said he wants to get some of the famous pioneers involved. And I'm like, we can, but let's talk to them later. Let's build the foundation now with what we know ourselves, so we know it's a solid foundation. And then after we already have that credibility, because we are the people from the streets, from the community that have been dealing with this work, then we can say, all right, let's reach out to him to piggyback on what was already told, what was already spoken. So I would say the same thing here. Let us build the credibility in our communities with what we're doing. And then when they know that we have a solid national and international foundation, then we can approach somebody. A perfect example, L1 is not on the call with us today, I don't think, but he was there. He was a witness when we did the thing in New Jersey with my son and the whole King Stop Killing Kings thing, right? Quick example, that was started by a sister that was rolling with Chosen, and she came to us to get support and then worked with the union to get the union support and start going out there with her thing, the King Stop Killing Kings, with the multiple banners, the multiple color banners for every gang. She originated that. My son came and piggybacked off her and basically jacked her whole thing and made his own flyer with bandanas on it and jacked her name and whatnot. And he put his name on it and he took it, where the mayor got involved, and we marched all through New Jersey and went and had the big gang rally at the end where they had the peace treaty. So some positive moves were made. Some things I didn't necessarily agree with, but at least they got the people together. However, there hasn't been a whole lot of follow-up on that. There hasn't been any consistent actions in the community or events or program. So yeah, he brought a little bit of name recognition to it, but it's like I said earlier, it's on us to create the events in the community and the programs in the community and the thing that we're going to do to celebrate the King Stop Killing Kings movement, or whatever we want to call it, in the park every couple of weeks or every couple of months or something. So let us build that foundation forward. That's why we have so many different like-minded individuals from different walks of life on this call, so we can form that foundation nationally and internationally. What I always said about the nation is the potential to be an international movement that moves in unison. So we can march on city halls or town halls or hold hip hop events in front of city halls and town halls and parks at the same time nationwide to show that foundation. And then we can get the other people with the names to come want to be involved. We don't need them to start it. We can start it ourselves. That's why we're here today.
And just to throw this in here, a lot of it, to both of the brothers in Southern California and anybody else.
There's a few, yeah.
Los Angeles is the first official chapter of the Temple of Hip Hop. I started that chapter, the first official one, 1999. That's the first official chapter that was operational. We grew to developing that radio show on the beat back in the early 2000s, every Sunday. It was critically acclaimed. We got so much love and support and got embraced. Freestyle Fellowship. I can go down the line. Project Blow. I can go down the line with it. But what I'm ultimately saying is it's our diplomacy. And the right people having the right conversations can make more ground and build more bridges than any of us will ever do alone. And so what I'm here to offer is my experience to aid any of you in doing that. What we need to stand on and why we stand on this declaration is because it is what the pioneers, the people who created this, right? The people who started this, that's what we're talking about, who actually pioneered it into being this multi-billion-dollar industry today that we own little to no control over its resources. This must change. How does it change? It changes with its people. The people must understand They are the ones that embody the spirit and the mindset that helps them to conjure these elements, that conjures these teachings and understandings, and more or less helps us to navigate through life. So for me, a lot of it comes down to our diplomacy. And that's the bridge speaking of earlier, and that's how you get these messages, because you cannot think that you can just deliver this with little to no experience, even if you are deep in the hood. Again, I'm from the south side of Chicago, you know what I mean? But I've lived in the Bronx, I've lived in Brooklyn, I've lived in Philadelphia now, I've lived through LA, you know what I'm saying? I've been in every major city in this country several times over, and each one has their own personality, right? They have their own identities, and we have to use cultural competency to understand those personalities and what it is that can motivate them. We got a lot of love out here in other places as well, but again, it depends on the messengers and it depends on the message. First, by delivering whatever message you're going to deliver, stand on truth. Stand on truth. And right now, human rights are the greatest truth that we are all linked to, because all of us are experiencing conditions that are impacting, right, our qualities of life. So that's just one reason. By reading through these principles, you'll find many, many other reasons, but it does take time, right? It takes time. I'm just a teacher that's here for you to help you to do that and respond and be there with you as well if need be. But again,
Malik, let's build, because you throwing names out there like definitely all them people that you name, and I'm from Project Blowed. I'm still down with Kilu and AC and Micah and all them all the time. I'm in Lamert Park every Sunday. So I was definitely thinking, once we get this platform together, whatever we're gonna do, I wanted to bring this to my elder Ben Caldwell. You know who that is. So let's definitely build, because all them people are still in my corner every day.
All right.
You know what I mean?
So, listen, I love it. But there are other people here, and real quick, I want to remind you that for the benefit. Listen, no, you're gonna talk.
No, I gotta say this.
Because we got brothers waiting. Listen, here's the benefit. Here's the benefit. What we're talking
Say
about is what took these pioneers that you guys are talking about. It took them 25, 30, 40 years to figure this out. And the reason why we're creating this platform is because we can start giving this to each other from the beginning, from day one. You know, but I have a brother, Atama, who's been waiting for a minute to contribute with the conversation. So I want to give other people a turn as well as other people that want to ask. Just give us a minute.
All right.
We're almost done. We're getting ready to wrap up. So I want to get everybody's 2 cents.
You know,
Thank you
for I'll just come in for 2 minutes, you know. So to the teachers here today, thank you so much. I'm looking at the next step for my constituency, for my island here. So I think a step forward will be for us to recognize and adopt the principle, so that we can translate it into our national language. We can even translate it into our indigenous tribal language. So I'm coming from the constituency of the Indigenous Peoples Movement Worldwide. I sat as a United Nations Indigenous Youth at the UN Forums for Indigenous People 2016, 2017. So I want to think about translating it into local language and creating this as an immersion strategy to widen the opportunity for exchanges, cultural dialogues, and even need for a cultural diplomacy on the footing of hip hop within our continents and subcontinents. So maybe what I would like to do right now is I would like to endorse the principles, and then from here build on with communicating the principles and engage widely to my community here, but not exclusive to that only. I will reach out to the indigenous peoples who are in Asia. So there's like 340 million indigenous people here. This is
oh man,
we're losing them. Yeah.
Oh,
this is what I'm talking about.
Hey,
this is
really
what I'm
quickly,
talking about.
really quickly. Bruh, please get you a piece in time of work, because I actually give y'all a shout out. And you'll see why it's so valuable that I'm saying it, because I don't give many in this particular work. This work is dedicated to people like yourselves who are out here, just like my man who was just talking about on his island, delivering this message, because it is about the diplomacy. It is about the translation of the understanding that is universal to all of us, were we to stop and just start by giving it time and then thinking on a much deeper level about what it means to us as individuals. So powerful.
Beautiful. Speaking of the island, I got another brother from the island. I think we might have lost him, but I got another brother from the island that it's probably, what time is it? It's 9 o'clock in the morning over there. My brother Ray Jose from the Philippines. He's also one of the young leaders that's looking up to us at how he can start leading his people. So why it's important to have him on the call and give us his perspective. If you got time, brother, Ray Domingo, we would love to hear from you.
Hello, peace everyone. I am here catching everything, trying to understand all the things that Sir Malik saying. One thing that is good on this discussion is that it helps me to realize more what is really hip hop, and it will lead me to be a great teacher soon to my students, because our understanding and perceptions of hip hop here is not that broad.
Right.
So with this kind of forum and discussion, it helps me to go deeper about the hip hop. And one thing I am here now is because of my purpose here in the Philippines, trying to unite all the different hip hop communities here. Because we came from different places, we came from different struggles. Every communities here have different struggles. So the perception and understanding of different people in a certain community is also different. So with these principles I learned here is that through this hip hop declaration of peace, it will guide us to create a space that despite of our the differences, we can still work together.
Right.
And that is what I learned now, and that is the understanding that I really appreciate from this discussion. Peace, brother.
Thank you. Thank
Beautiful,
you.
beautiful, love it. For those that don't know, the Philippines is a lot like the 5 boroughs was in the early days.
Except they got a real shit river.
Separate communities and separate islands in their birthplaces. They're just on different islands, so they have police to host events and whatnot. In other islands, they don't like the police. They're almost anti-police. So these are different things going on right in different islands that he's trying to navigate and unite these hip hop families together, which is why these conversations are so important, not only for us to have, but us to open up to them and hear what they're dealing with so we can learn to better address it internationally. So thank you very much for joining and taking the time. And real quick, everybody, my sister's a little bit shy, so she don't want to get on tonight, but everybody send some love to my sister Fury, Chosen Zulu, always representing. We love you, we miss you, we're glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. We do love to hear from your sisters, so if you have any questions
family.
or things, you can just type it in the message box. Peace. How you doing, sis? What you think so far?
Peace, King. I think it's good. I think everything sounds positive. I'm learning, so, I wasn't really a street girl. I wasn't out there. I didn't know about hip hop like that, but I'm just going to keep listening for a while. So if I have to ask a question, I will come to you. I just want to say peace to all my brothers and good night.
Thank you for taking the time. And we got, thank you, love you. Thank you for being here. And real quick, we always got to make time for the sisters. We've been speaking in English for a while, so I want to check on big girl China, Seneca, Uruguay. ¿Cómo te va? ¿Cómo está todo? ¿Puede entender o tiene pregunta? ¿Está durmiendo?
Bien, no estamos acá escuchando.
Ok, bueno, estoy chequeando. Si tiene preguntas, dime, ponlo en el chat.
No, lo único que me queda para preguntar con respecto a lo que hablaban hoy sobre cómo integrar el tercer elemento o el segundo elemento con lo que está pasando hoy. Mi pregunta sería, ¿cómo pretenden ustedes hacer que la gente que es referente, que inició toda la cultura, cambie esa cabeza? Porque creo que los que iniciaron la cultura todavía, en su mayoría, tienen un concepto de la primera generación. Entonces a nosotros que vivimos en América Latina se nos hace muy complicado poder llegar a interpretar la ideología que tienen ellos con lo que nosotros queremos hacer como cambio positivo, ¿no? ¿Cómo podemos integrar nuestra cabeza positiva con gente que no quiere cambiar o tiene una postura muy reacia, incluso por más que se den cuenta de que, bueno, hay cosas que hay que cambiarlas y se dan cuenta que bueno, hicieron estos derechos en su momento y quieren integrarlos y demás, no cambian la cabeza con el tema comercial tampoco. O sea, es como que quieren cambiar pero no quieren cambiarlo. Y entonces es difícil para nosotros, en nuestro punto de vista donde vivimos, poder llegar a intentar hacer un cambio radical y que la generación nueva, por ejemplo, se adapte a esos cambios nuevos, ¿no? Siempre, cuando lo comercial y la gente que es referente todavía continúa con ese pensamiento. Eso sería, no sé si se entendió mucho lo que quería preguntar, pero...
Sí, un poco, pero voy a chequear con el hermano Sai. Sai 1, can you make sure I'm understanding that correctly? You still with us? No, he's not here. All right. Si puede entender, si estás hablando del segundo principio o del elemento, el principio de declaración, ¿verdad?
Del segundo principio que estábamos leyendo.
Sí. Y la pregunta es que, ¿cómo es? Cypher, did you catch that?
Okay, ¿cuál era la pregunta que tenías para él?
La pregunta...
No la capté.
Ahí está, te la explico porque capaz que no la interpreto muy bien para expresar, pero hay mucha gente de la generación primaria, la primera generación, que fue la que fundó la cultura y hizo un movimiento, que se dio cuenta de que había que hacer algo para erradicar un poco la violencia de las calles y empezar a tener principios. Pero resulta que hicieron estos derechos, pero aún así, a pesar de todo lo que ha pasado, se aferran al pensamiento y se aferran a lo comercial todavía. Y mi pregunta sería, ¿cómo nosotros desde América Latina, que queremos cambiar ese concepto y queremos mostrar otra cara de la cultura, cómo podemos hacer para llegar primero a la gente pionera, ¿no?
Ok, entonces tu pregunta es básicamente cómo...
Somebody got their TV on.
Sí, ¿me pueden bajar ahí el tele, por favor?
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. That was me.
Yeah, I knew it was you. You had the TV on.
All right.
All right. So the question's about the second principle, and what was it? How was it?
Yeah. So she wanted to state that avoiding the first generation of Zulus, right? She wanted to see how she can integrate in Latin America, I guess, the new ways of teaching instead of like trying to use the old people as an example, and not going on the commercial level, like try to separate yourself from commercial stance into a conscious one. And she wanted to see how we can incorporate that second verse.
Es como que tiene una controversia, ¿no? Como que por un lado quieren cambiar las cosas para mejor, pero tampoco quieren dejar lo comercial, ni tampoco quieren dejar ese yo soy reconocido, yo soy el pionero, yo soy esto, ¿no? Y el ser así provoca que nosotros, como para querer cambiar o poder introducir una cultura fresca, sana, con otros principios a la gente más joven, los niños, no podemos nosotros enseñarles de que los referentes están peleando entre sí, sacándose los ojos por un lugar, por un puesto, por lo comercial, y que no se ponen de acuerdo entre ellos, ni siquiera en los tiempos que tiene el decreto, ¿no? Que tiene
Okay, her point was basically on the reflection that why have competition? Why do we have to have these battles to what's the best, you know, who's best or who's a winner, for saying that unaffiliate ourselves from the commercial spotlight to oneself being egotistical, I guess, on a sense, like a way of separation. Y tu pregunta en conjunto era una pregunta o un statement?
No, en realidad, mi pregunta a todo
No,
esto sería,
es como nosotros estaba hablando antes.
¿cómo hacemos nosotros para poder enseñarle a la gente joven a tener paciencia, tolerancia, humanidad y demás, cuando la gente que es pionera y referente, entre sí, por conservar el ego, por conservar lo comercial, por conservar una trayectoria y por conservar una cultura de un legado antiguo, y que no se saquen los ojos entre ellos, ¿no?
Correct. So like basically her question is like, how can we teach these people to have patience, to actually not look for those commercial goals into this culture, but more have a dedicated patience into the cultural side of this thing, or
yeah, I think I got the gist of it.
Leave and Answer in the chat.
Right. So we sort of touched about it before when the brother said, how can we get stars in? Antes nosotros estaba hablando, el hermano Lastman preguntó cómo puede conseguir a las estrellas que los niños te buscan ahora para ayudar a nosotros con eso. Y Sir Malik y nosotros, yo, dice que empieza con usted, con Lastman. Nosotros necesito empezar enseñándolo en la escuela, en la calle, con los primos y los niños, en tu familia y tus amigos. Y como yo dice antes, como el tío que los niños te gustan. Like, si tú tienes una papá que cuando él trae al parque, el bebé y es un hombre angry, no quiere ir al parque con él, ¿verdad? Pero si tu tío que te gusta viene, dice, vamos al parque, tú quieres ir porque él lo hace un way que tú te gusta. Nosotros necesito ser los tías y los tíos de los niños ahora, que se gustan a venir a los fiestas que nosotros hace. Como yo dije antes, en mayo, el tercero semana de mayo es Hip Hop Appreciation Week. Eso no vale nada a los niños si nosotros no hacen nada en la comunidad. Ahora saben, el tercero semana de mayo es Hip Hop Appreciation Week. Ok, díselo a los niños y ¿qué va a hacer? Nada. Porque nosotros necesitamos hacer la fiesta. En el tercero semana de Hip Hop Mayo va a ser una fiesta por 4 días. En el 4 días va a hacer eso y enseñar eso. Y ahora es un tiempo que los niños te gustan. El Hip Hop Appreciation Week, bueno, fiestas cada día, vamos. Y nosotros necesitamos hacer, no necesitan la ayuda de los, por una, no other word, los viejos. Ahora nosotros somos los enseñadores. Nosotros somos tías y tíos de la calle. So in paraphrase, we were talking about what we were saying with Last Man earlier when he asked, how do we get the stars in the Sir Malik? And my response was, you are the stars. We are the stars in the community. It's on us to be the cool uncles and aunts and to make it exciting. When Hip Hop Appreciation comes, it's not enough to just tell them it's Hip Hop Appreciation Week, go have fun. But we have to tell them it's Hip Hop Appreciation Week, come to the 3-day or 4-day party that we're going to do. And then they're excited because now they know it's going to be 3 days or 4 days of party every Hip Hop Appreciation Week. Shit, it's hip hop, and they get happy. We got to make it cool. So it's on us to be the faces and the voices of this in the community and to create the events that make them excited about it.
That's
Eso,
awesome.
eso es un, entiende eso. Eso es que entiende que necesitan lo que yo estoy tratando de decir, ¿verdad?
Sí,
Y Tony,
entiendo,
¿tú
entiendo.
tienes algo a decir?
Soy como la tía latina.
Sí, de la calle, de los niños ahí, y a usted y nosotros está trabajando juntos para hacer lo mismo. Si yo lo hace aquí en Nueva York o Chicago, California, tú puedes hacerlo ahí en Uruguay, él puede hacerlo en Chile, él puede hacerlo en México, y cada mes, cada cuarto, cada 3 meses, cada año va a ser una nueva en cada lugar. Entonces, Tony, ¿tú tienes algo a decir?
Entonces es básicamente en mayo, tercera semana de mayo, anualmente, es el hip hop, apreciar el hip hop, la semana de apreciar el hip hop. Y hay que hacer talleres, hay que hacer educación, hay que hacer un montón de eventos para apreciar, para enseñar la comunidad qué es el hip hop y apreciar todas las ramas, elementos y educación que podamos darle a la comunidad. De eso se trata lo que está haciendo el Sir Malik One y Chosen Zulu, sobre lo que es preservar la cultura hip hop, ¿verdad? En nuestras comunidades y en nuestra juventud.
Ahí está. Porque también tenemos esto, lo de la tecnología, ¿no?
Sí.
Que nosotros enseñamos por un lado todo lo que es humano y los valores, pero también ellos ven,
Sí.
ellos ven
Sí.
las peleas y ven los intercambios
Sí.
que hay entre gente grande. Entonces es como difícil explicarles esos choques de pensamiento, ¿no? Porque por un lado queremos construir, pero hay gente que en teoría es la referente mayor o mayor que nosotros y nada, y está en una guerra constante. Más si queremos tratar de que no vuelva a pasar lo que pasó, esas masacres que pasaron en la historia, que vuelvan a pasar con las generaciones futuras, ¿no?
Correcto. Hay que enseñarles lo que
Sí,
puedas
enseña
en
la
tu
historia
región, ¿verdad?
de tu país también.
De tu región, de tu país,
Sí, no
la
solamente la
raíz.
historia de Nueva York o de América, pero la historia de tu país también. Y Tony, ¿tú tienes algo a decir? Donativo. Eso
Creo
como
que,
dice.
bueno, ahí se me puede traducir Cypher
Claro,
One.
yeah, man.
Creo que siempre ha existido esa línea delgada entre la industria del hip hop y la cultura hip hop. Y esto es lo que a veces nos puede confundir en la cuestión de la acción. No necesariamente necesitamos que vengan las grandes estrellas a enseñarle a la gente el hip hop. Como lo dijo Chosen, desde nosotros, debemos de comenzar la acción. Les dejé como mis opiniones ahí en el chat.
Okay, he said basically, it's all about taking action, right? Like Chosen said, you know what I mean? It's, it's not really about like who's coming into town or bringing a big head in. It's basically us taking action, right? So it's time to head on some action, and he put on some thoughts of what some actions around our region or Mexico region, right? Or what he's doing. Is giving us some information on circles, on strengths of knowledge of independently taking this initiative, right? So as you can see on the chat, he gave us some of that info. Okay, siga, perdón.
Okay.
No, gracias. Gracias por la traducción.
Yeah.
Gracias. Buena información. Y por eso nosotros estoy hablando hoy, porque como yo dije cuando empezaste, hay 4 ways que pueden mirar a hip hop. Hip hop es una forma de música, hip hop es una cultura, hip hop es un business, un industry, y también un way of life, como nosotros vivimos. Nosotros somos la gente que vive en hip hop, no solamente la música. Las estrellas de la televisión y radio son las estrellas de música, no de la cultura. Nosotros somos la gente que vive eso. We are the people that live this. Like I said in the beginning, there's the music, there's the culture, there's the business, and then there's the people that live this as a way of life. We are the people that live this on the way of life. So it's on us to pass this on to the next generation, to be the faces, to be the uncles. And I'll end it with this. Las estrellas de tu comunidad no son las estrellas de la televisión. Las estrellas son los niños. Hace las fiestas como un talent contest, como un showcase, y los niños pueden hacer la show. Los niños pueden bailar, pueden cantar, pueden rapear, pueden hacer el graffiti, pueden, aprender a cómo hacer el DJ. Y si tú pones a los niños a sentar como ellos son las estrellas, ellos van a venir. Porque toda la gente quiere un trophy, quiere un certificado, quiere alguien que dice, tú ganaste, tú eres el winner. Right, so I'm saying instead of waiting for the stars on TV and radio to come, make the kids in the neighborhood and the community stars. Turn it to showcase and talent contest and rap contest or b-boy contest where they win the prizes and they get the trophies and they feel like the stars, because everybody wants to feel good. Everybody wants to feel important, like they win. So when we give them an opportunity to feel like they could win as the best dancer or even best dress, puede hacer competiciones cuando gente viene quien vestirse mejor. You can give awards for anything. Who's dressed the best? Who has the best style? Who did the best freestyle? And you make the kids feel important. And the kids will come because they might win something. They might get a cash prize. They might get a trophy. They might, even if it's un competición de video games, puede hacer un Call of Duty tournament y puede cargar el winner con, y puede venir. Los niños te gusta play video games, right? The kids like to play video games, so you can even make a local video game tournament and cash prize for the kids where they're the best at Call of Duty or NBA Live or whatever, and do things like that to start engaging them on their level of understanding, like we said. So it's not just teaching about the old rappers, it's engaging them and making them feel important and proud. In the beginning, when we said, last man said, you can't just tell them to stop shooting and gangbanging. No, you can't, because they need to get money. That's the only way they need to do it. But if you say stop gangbanging and come to the video game tournament where you can win $1,000, you think they might do that instead of standing on the corner and might get robbed or picked up by the police?
Yeah,
right?
man.
So if we give them an alternative, si dar un alternativo a los niños, dice no queda en la calle con los pistolas y los drogas, viene a la competición de Call of Duty. Y eso puede ganar 500 pesos o 1,000 pesos. Si vas a quedar en la calle con los pistolas o con las drogas, o va a venir a la competición de Call of Duty para ganar 100 o 200, 500 pesos. That's what we have to do. We have to create the place where it caters to what they want. And this is why we're talking about the principles and the fundamentals and the basic understanding. We can get speakers that can tell you their version of history all day and it won't matter. You won't really understand it. When we organize it as fundamentals, basic understandings, and principles that they can leave this call and apply principle number 1 to them today, we're teaching them how to live a better life. And we're setting the example. Cuando nosotros
Hey,
enseña
let's
los
build
principios
Prism,
y
because
las
I want to know
culturas
where
y
I'm going
los
to get that money.
fundamentales,
I want to know where I can
listen, we're
get
going
that
to talk
money
about
to
it.
set up those events to put that money forward to
Right,
them.
but this is why way back, right, and this is why way back, and even recently, I remind you guys, you are each your own organization or your company. So when you put your package together, you can start getting sponsorship from your local communities and vendors and record labels and grocery stores and supermarkets, even if they're only contributing $100, $200. That sponsorship goes to promote them and goes to the cash prizes, as well as the people paying $10 fee at our chapter. Instead of a chapter, it's no longer a chapter. It's your organization and your company. And when you do that, you can start tapping into the resources in the community. And like you and I are doing, creating at a time, turn your chapter into your marketing and promotion team. So they all out there marketing your t-shirts and your stuff, and it's $5 a pop, whatever it is. And we'll definitely build on that. But with that, we didn't get to go through all the principles, but there's a copy on the website, the principles on the website. We could definitely do more of this on our other calls and go through each of the principles to discuss how we can improve them or make them better. I do have a brother that's waiting to speak. Jazor, go ahead.
Yes, just peace to everyone. I just want to add something referring what Sheena said. Quiero decir algo referente a lo que preguntaba China, bueno, a lo que comentaba China. También considero importante, pues, mostrar a la comunidad, a los jóvenes, a los niños que están adentrándose a la cultura, que hip hop es más allá de lo que pueden ver en lo comercial y los artistas que están sonando en radio y televisión. Hip hop somos la comunidad, ¿no? Y tenemos que también enseñarles a no seguir las imágenes de estos artistas. Ellos tienen que conocerse a sí mismos, ¿no? Es bien importante dentro del hip hop el conocerse uno mismo. Es parte del conocimiento del quinto elemento del hip hop. Entonces, enseñarles también a través de eso que ellos pueden adquirir todos los skills, todas las habilidades y expresarse ellos mismos, expresar lo que ellos son a través de los elementos de la cultura hip hop, más que seguir o copiar a estos artistas. Eso considero que es bien importante, ¿no? Y una manera también de contrarrestar esto de los artistas que están llenos de ego, que solo quieren brillar. What I say is that I think that it's important to also show and teach the youth and the childs that are becoming part of the culture to know their self. It's part of the fifth element, knowledge. Knowledge is also about knowing themselves and express themselves through the hip hop elements, not that only following the superstars at the radio and TV shows. They have to create their own personality and their know and discover their own skills and express themselves through the hip hop elements. So that's a way to avoid that the youth follow only what they hear and what they see. So they gotta know their self and express their self through the hip hop elements. So that's what I say to China.
Absolutely, very true. And with that, I'll bring it to this. One of the things that we do, you know, Chosen Zulu and Chosen Networks, the main company, have always taught hip hop knowledge and knowledge of self. And one of the tools that we use is this thing that we created years ago, probably about 15, 20 years ago, called the personal cipher. This personal cipher represents the 6 aspects of who you are, the 6 aspects of self, right? So self, we teach is a breakdown that actually teaches you. When we heard knowledge of self, we're like, what is knowledge of self? What does that contain? And the word self, we discovered an acronym, SELF, stands for spiritual entity in living form. Right? So you are both a non-physical being, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, the desires, the dreams, and the living form, the body. In this cipher, you can see the breakdown. On the left side is your non-physical side, your spiritual, your mental, and your emotional. On the right side is the physical, the body, the social, and the financial. We teach them to balance themselves on each of these levels. One of the tools that we teach them is a technique we call chosen paths, PATHS. And like you said, that's teaching them to identify their passions, their abilities, their talents, their hobbies, and their skills. So that way they can start to identify what makes them unique. And I'll try to do that in Spanish. Cypher, you can help me in the text if possible. Eso es una tool, una regla que nosotros en Chosen usa para enseñar a los jóvenes los aspectos de quién es. Cuando dice knowledge of self, knowledge is knowledge of who you are, quién tú eres. Eso es los elementos de self, como se dice en español, en inglés. Espiritualmente, mental, emocional, con los dineros, social, es familia, es el neighborhood, la comunidad, es el trabajo, es la escuela, es la historia de dónde eres, y físico es tu cuerpo, tu body, tu health, medicina, todo eso. Nosotros usan eso, un tool para decir, Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 in each area. Where are you now versus your perfect 10? You want to have the perfect body, you want to have the perfect health, you want to have the PhD. Where are you on that scale, on a scale of 1 to 10? And then we help them figure out, I'm only a 4. Your perfect 10 is this. And we help them with a plan. Nosotros ayuda a los jóvenes con un plan, un life plan, para hacer el perfecto 10, el perfecto cuerpo, el perfecto, la cosa que necesito saber, la mentalidad, necesito enseñarlo, aprenderlo en la escuela, necesito dinero financieramente. Si quiere un relationship con una esposa, necesito balance emotional, una gente que es alegre y contento más que es, ¿cómo se dice? Angry, pissed off, you know what I mean? Y eso es una regla que hace que Jason está diciendo es correcto. Sí, sí, enojado. Necesito contento más que estar enojado o en paz, es el centro. Y por eso nosotros dicen peace, paz, hermano, porque quiere empezar con paz en el centro. Y con eso es una regla que puede hacer, va a trabajar con Toñatio, Jason y Sai para transducir esa información para hacer una cita con Latinoamérica también. Pero con eso es mucha información hoy y yo estoy contento que nosotros y toda tu gente venimos, tiene preguntas, tienes información que nosotros puede ayudar. I'm very grateful to all of you for coming, to participating and taking the time. Like the brother Malik said, you guys can be anywhere, but for me, this is my spiritual gathering, my fellowship, where I meet with like minds and pass this information on. So I'm grateful and honored to have so many of you here with us tonight. Definitely Latin America. I want to do something we customize for you guys. So get at me. We'll talk about that. And all the rest of you, Last Man, Reyes, Luke, Ray Domingo, Atama, Fury, Cypher One. Appreciate you for the help. We finally got the brother Everdo on the line, and a few other words. If you guys have any questions or anything to say, feel free. We're about to wrap it up now. Anything else you want to say before we wrap it up? Let me get out of here.
Yo, peace, brother. I just want to appreciate all this effort.
Peace.
And I want also to recognize my brother here, Jagad Dail. So he's also my comrade here in the Philippines. And it's nice to see other guys here also in the meeting, and hope to build with you soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely reach out to me. Me and Asa have been talking about you in the Philippines. So we definitely want to build with you. When you have time, hit me up. And definitely, I'm glad to have, you have some of your people on here. Jagat Dali, thank you for joining us. Any questions, feel free to reach out, ask Ray or myself. We're always happy to help. China and Uruguay, gracias por viniendo. Tonatio, gracias por todo. Tú eres una fuerza de México, ya tú sabes. Y quiero hablar contigo cuando tiene tiempo, llámame, mándame un mensaje en Facebook cuando puede. Cypher One, thank you for joining and for helping us. And it was a lot easier with you being able to make sure I got everything correctly. Tama, this is your family, brother. I've been trying to get you in here for a minute, so we didn't stop what we're doing. We might have changed names, we might have changed descriptions or locations, but we're still doing the same work. Ain't nothing changed. So I'm glad you made it here. Thank you for joining. All right. Fury, thank you. Brother Jason, Fats, you with us? Any words, chime in before we head out of here?
Good. Peace to the fam. Peace to everybody that had a whole lot to say. I'm just ready to like I said, just kind of move forward. I'm a Malik one and build with him like that. I've been building with the Moore Science Temple, a couple of other organizations, hollering at a couple of girls who work for some politicians or whatever, kind of on their squad to see. I put it in their ear a little bit. So I just want to fine tune it, and I need it physically in a mode that I can start presenting it to entities, like you said earlier, can put us on a more political, international, you know what I mean? State, start local, state, national, international with this document, like you said, so we can skip middlemen, and instead of begging people to run in rec centers, we now have a document and or an international system that puts us all together that we stand on. I also had one more idea, like when you got the pictures, like people like the elders around the pictures, when we start promoting it to the youth, maybe we can put people that they lost as a picture. They might have lost their homie, they might have lost their mom or something like that. Maybe they can put their picture up, the youth that we about to present it to, as an idea. And I'm throwing that out there, just an idea. Other than that,
That's
peace and
great.
blessings.
I
Yo,
mean, saying the same
you know
thing.
how we do shows, it's all love. Let's get it.
Absolute. Absolute. No, I agree with you 1%. It was part of the conversation after Last Man, and you were talking about doing a day for, mourning those that passed away. I was thinking, who can't get behind the people that passed away? So not necessarily just their homies, but those that we were talking about. But there's nothing that says we can't do multiple versions. So we can do, like they do remixes, like the Nas "Where Are They Now" remix. He did a West Coast one, an 80s one, a 90s one. We could do the same thing with the Declaration. You feel me? So we're gonna build on that,
we can fit the Declaration to suit whatever situation it needs to suit. I totally agree. Chameleon.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
That's what me and Luke talked about too, Prism. Not just
Right.
with this declaration, but we was talking about, when we were growing up, the Stop the Violence, the All in the Same Gang, all of these things were big time beneficial to all of us. We were talking about we need to get some of these younger artists of today to put together a 2020 Stop the Violence song and video.
I like that.
You know what I'm saying? So
I like that. However, with the knowledge we realized, and I think we touched on it last time we were on the call, we don't necessarily want to say the word violence anymore, right? Because it's one of those things where you attract what you speak about. So when you say stop the violence, you make them picture fighting, right? You're saying stop the violence, so they picture fighting and whatnot. So we want to find a term or a slogan where it's more about increase the peace, or raise the knowledge, or something that's implying stop the violence, but putting the focus on the positive connotation on it. And that's part of the discussion that we're having. So I would definitely love to have you. We can come up with a few different slogans for different places. I would love to talk about it.
Prism, what I can do is get Master ESF, Lord Gap,
yes, sir.
Lord Minotron, Sector 7, a lot of these other groups that were even Jedi Mind Tricks and get Vinny Paz. I'll go ahead and start doing that right now to see if we can all do that. It'll be a great. That's a good idea.
But no. Yes, we want to do that, but let us get our foundation. That was part of the conversation before. Let us get our foundation together first, and then we can invite the the Jedis and the things like that. But definitely, that's what we're talking about.
Awesome.
And real quick, speaking of ESF, I got Lord Chaos on here. Master Order, real quick. I know you've been on for most. I would love to get a little bit of feedback from Chaos, Master Order, if you got a second.
Of course. He's my manager.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
All right.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir. What's good, brother?
Okay, cool.
Yes.
I was actually thinking about it right before you guys said it. One thing I think we should be very vocal about is change and embracing change. Not a lot of people like it. The world's going through a lot of change right now. And changing what these artists are talking about in music and being more positive. And I think it's important to highlight there's a difference between what you see and what you're going through, say in the hood versus glorifying violence, or glorifying getting fucked up all the time on something, or doing something more positive with yourself. So a much more positive and conscious and spiritual aspect put in that music and promoting that positivity. And that goes along with everything as far as hip hop being a part of your way of life and embracing that and putting that out there. So someone mentioned video games earlier, and I was thinking that's something we should also try to think about down the line, is inserting that type of music into those avenues where there's a younger generation, they like video games. So if we can put more positive music in those video games versus, or like Grand Theft Auto, I'm sure it has some. I haven't played Grand Theft Auto in years, but it's a very violent series. So even if you can incorporate some kind of positive music into that or something, rap is one of the most important aspects of hip hop, because it's in people's ears. It communicates differently. I mean, everything is a way of life, and it has its own communication. But when people put something in their ears and it puts their headspace in a different environment, or it shapes the way they think, I think that's powerful. It's just like media. It can it can shape the way people think altogether, or it can manipulate them. So promoting change and saying that change is a positive thing. And, you know, the way cancel culture is today, everybody wants to call out everybody on their bullshit. But people don't want to give people the chance to, you know, hold themselves accountable or take responsibility and, you know, call themselves out on change that they need to embrace or other people need to embrace. People don't take constructive criticism in stride. So I think
They
that's
don't.
something that we can, you know, emphasize more on with the younger crowd. And also with that, with the older crowd, because, you know, some of them are trying to come back and appeal to the newer crowd, and maybe their music isn't doing as well, or they're, you know, trying to speak about the same things about, you know, getting fucked up on anything or partying and just not doing something for yourself. So I think them putting out positive music, connecting with the youth, and them putting that out too, because I mean, honestly, a lot of the music on the mainstream isn't very positive, and these guys have platforms. If they still have any following, they have platforms to be able to change that stuff. So they should have some kind of influence. Now, going high, I agree completely with, you know, taking baby steps to get there. You know, we have to build ourselves up and show that, you know, we have something behind us. We have a movement already that they can get behind versus, you know, what do we have to show other than we have the mentality for this. So I think it's important to, you know, slowly work our way and ease our way, making these connections and these avenues into, I don't know, talk about change as well.
Right. And just to paraphrase in Spanish, él dice que ahora en ese mundo la cosa cambia cada día y como una comunidad de hip hop necesito preparar para cambiar y por ejemplo la música de rap es muy importante en la mentalidad de la gente. Video games tienen música también como Grand Theft Auto, cosas like that. Es importante que nosotros tiene música positivo con palabras positivas de la comunidad en esas juegas también, y nosotros podemos trabajar juntos para hacer cosas así, para tener la música de nosotros en las juegas y las cosas que lo hacen ahora. Y porque cosas siempre está cambiando, pero no necesario es que cambiar es malo. Nosotros podemos hacer el cambio que es bueno, empezando con la cosa que nosotros hace con los jóvenes, to paraphrase. But yes, I agree 100%. Those are great words. I appreciate that. And Atama, did you have something else before we get ready to wrap it up? Oh, we got Malik all of a sudden. So you had your hand up for a second, though?
Yeah, I do. Thank you so much. So Prism, so I think you're best here in terms of the organizing the next steps. So perhaps there is an architecture into the pathway of coordinating and collaborating this initial step. So I'm looking forward to further communication with you and Sir Malik on how we want to implement the first baby steps.
Absolutely. You know, and like I said, this is something that's bigger than just the Zulu family, but a lot of us here are from the Zulu family in one capacity or another. So we start with the foundation that we have, so that way, you know, we can unify. So we'll definitely get more into that. You know, just to clarify, a lot of the brothers here, Jason Kirkman, Last Man, who else we still have on here? Those are two brothers that are representing the coalition known as the Zulu Union now, so they can definitely give a lot more information to you about that, because I know you're out in the middle of nowhere in Borneo from what we discussed when we spoke. But we have an international family that we're putting together, and like I said, for me, it's bigger than Zulu. It's about all of us getting together. So we're working with Tasha Iglesias and her conference. Speaking on, Tasha Iglesias is doing a 5-day conference. A lot of you know her from the Philippines event that we did. I actually have some VIP passes. So if you guys would like to attend, there's 2 more days left. It's been great information during the daytime. I think it's between like the hours of 10 and 4 on West Coast time, something like that. But it's been great information. If you're interested in attending, let me know. I have some VIP access to that I can send you guys, but I've been loving it. It's great information, and this is more stuff that we want to facilitate. This is sort of the platform where we're building this. So, you know, definitely connect with us. We're going to do this. For those that don't know, we do this open hip hop discussion on the fundamentals and the principles every 2 weeks, and we try to feature a different speaker or specialist or somebody with an area of expertise that can give us more information. As of right now, unless anything changes, the plan is next week we're going to have Brother Jason Kirk, or not next week, 2 weeks from now, Brother Jason Kirkman, aka King Fats, who's going to be sharing information with us on the pre-culture of hip hop, everything that created that atmosphere that led to hip hop, and his new book Off Stage that is also available on his website, soundtrustrecords.com, I believe. We're going to talk to him about that culture, about that time period, and of course, like always, we're going to open up the discussion so that way we can make sure we all get something of value out of it. So if that being said, thank you all. I see, you know, the true hip hop heads and brothers and sisters that really are willing to invest their time and their energy and their understanding into this. And we need more of us to get together in order to start influencing that change that the brother was just talking about, not only in our local areas, but worldwide. Like I said, when they see us all moving in unison and making the same steps together, we become an example to the rest of them. So they don't necessarily have to join us to be inspired by us. Let's be the inspiration. One love to all of you. Thank you for your time. It's been my honor and my pleasure. 2 weeks, we're going to meet again. Anybody who wants to know about more about the Chosen Zulu Week Pro-Man, hit me up. We'll set up a one-on-one conversation so we can give you more details about that. And thank you. Thank you. One love, peace and blessings. Peace Akis, peace Malikas, peace Kings, peace Queens, peace Chosen, peace to my whole hip hop family. Thank you, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend ahead, everybody.
Good night. Pues muchísimas gracias por la información. Seguimos en contacto. Igual me despido porque hay que ir a cenar con la familia. Me pongo en contacto contigo, Prince. Te escribo y
sí.
Vemos las fechas.
Sí.
Gracias.
Sí. Gracias a usted.
Peace. Peace, Kings. Queens.
Wow.
Peace.
Hey, last man, it was good to see you. I couldn't type or message you on that on the Zoom for some reason, but yeah. Hey, last man, how are you?